Hi everyone, we hope you're doing well. We're hanging in there though honestly, we haven't been getting much sleep lately. Today, we want to answer a question we get a lot: how do we publish our audiobooks? First, we post most audiobooks on Patreon as paid content. They stay paid for a few months. After that, they become free to listen to on Patreon forever. A few weeks later, we post them on other places like YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter, X. Lately, things have been a bit slow in terms of new members. So we'd love your help. Please share our site with your friends or in places like Facebook groups, Twitter, X, Discord, Reddit, or novel forums. Even one share can really help us grow. Thanks so much for your support. He vanished from sight. According to the rules of summoning jutsu, once the summoning was undone, the summoned person returned to their original spatial coordinates. Without the guidance of the flying thunder god Kunai, by the time he returned from Mount Mayabaku, this fast-moving three-masted ship would have drifted who knows where. Minato wasn't gone for long. In less than 2 minutes, he used the flying thunder god to return to the ship. Was still on the deck, basking in the sun and enjoying the sea breeze. When he saw Minato return, his face had an odd expression. Curious, he asked, "What's with that look?" The village issued an announcement, Minato replied, choosing his words carefully. In short, it says that Hidden Eddy Village has always been a steadfast ally of Hidden Leaf Village. Due to certain reasons in the past, Hidden Leaf Village couldn't extend a helping hand when the Uzumaki clan was in crisis. So now, Hidden Leaf Village is calling on its ninjas to help any remaining Uzumaki clan members they encounter. Minato briefly summarized what he had learned from the toads. After hearing this, K's expression also turned strange. He immediately understood why Minato had looked that way earlier. Both of them had the same thought: where was this energy back when it actually mattered? The land of whirlpools had been destroyed for years. The Uzumaki clan was nearly wiped out. And now, they suddenly remembered their so-called alliance? So the third Hokage is planning to gather the remaining Uzumaki clan members, huh? Instantly saw through the real motive behind the announcement. The Uzumaki clan. If the higher-ups of Hidden Leaf Village were interested in them, it was definitely because of their special bloodline and sealing techniques. And since this wasn't something that had happened in the original storyline, even without thinking too hard, he could guess that it was because of the rumors spreading in the village about him dating Kushina. Were they worried about their Jinchuriki? Or were they being cautious about the Yamanaka clan as well? Or maybe both? Probably, Minato nodded with a smile. Looks like Kushina will soon have some of her clan members settling in Hidden Leaf Village. He was genuinely happy for her. After all, Hidden Leaf Village was one of the 5 great ninja villages. Its living conditions were far better than those chaotic, war-torn small nations. If the remaining Uzumaki clan members could come to Hidden Leaf Village, they would have a much better chance of survival and carrying on their legacy. Don't be too optimistic, scoffed. The Uzumaki clan probably holds a serious grudge against Hidden Leaf Village. Still, he silently contacted his system, wondering if this butterfly effect he had caused would earn him a reward. This counted as influencing and changing the storyline, right? Seeing that the system remained completely unresponsive after a long while, he turned to look at Minato beside him. "Do you want a wife or not?" Minato stared at his best friend with a face full of confusion. Red-haired, long-haired beauty, exquisite facial features, a stunning and curvy figure, gentle and kind personality. "Do you want her or not?" Wrapped an arm around Minato's neck. He vividly described the Uzumaki girl he remembered from his past memories. "As long as she doesn't punch me so hard that I cry for days, then maybe, possibly, probably. I'd be interested." Minato's face bloomed into a smile. To be honest, he did think red hair was beautiful. That color always gave him a sense of boundless passion and vitality. Back in the Ninja Academy, if K hadn't acted so fast, he might have actually tried to pursue Kushina himself. "Just wait, I'm going to repeat these exact words to Kushina." K was now even more determined to pair that girl on the summoning island with Minato. 1. To change Minato's life path and earn a reward from the system. 2. Because Kushina was his. Minato needed to be settled down early, otherwise, it would be annoying. Hey, I was just repeating what you said. If Kushina were to be with someone, shouldn't it be you?" Minato protested, trying to reason with him. "She can't bear to leave me, so. If you keep this up, you're going to lose me as a friend, for real." Ha ha ha. The two of them laughed and joked around for a while. Then, directly instructed the captain to change course, setting their destination toward the summoning island of the Land of the Sea. When ninjas go out on missions, all sorts of unexpected things can happen. Returning a few days late? No one would say a word about it. The Land of the Sea occupied the waters north of the Land of Water and south of the Land of Lightning. Just like the Land of Grass, Land of Bears, and Land of Rain, It was a small nation squeezed between two great countries, serving as a buffer zone for war. As for Summoning Island, while it was technically part of the Land of Sea's territory, in reality, it was under Kiri's control. In the original timeline, this island was home to many powerful creatures that could be used as summoning beasts, making it highly sought after by ninjas. A research facility had even been built on the island to study, cultivate, and enhance summoning beasts. Back when Creed the memories of Hidden Mist Village ninjas, he learned that the summoning beasts they used against Pakura all came from that place. At the time, he hadn't paid much attention to it. But now that the topic of the Uzumaki clan had come up, he recalled the named Uzumaki characters from the original story. And naturally, he thought of that girl who lived on Summoning Island, only to tragically die because of the so-called ultimate summoning beast. Based on both his knowledge of the original plot and the intel from the Hidden Mist Village ninjas' memories, he concluded that a girl named Oko had a very high chance of still being alive, and she was around the same age as them. Wouldn't it be better to give her to Minato as a wife instead of letting her die in a beast's mouth for nothing? I'm a damn genius. In K's mind, a tiny version of himself stood with hands on his hips, feeling extremely proud. Chapter 25, Bribing Crows and Angering Monsters. Gag. On the sea, several nautical miles away from the Summoning Island. Two summoned crows under K's contract perched on the ship's railing, flapping their wings and cawing furiously. Even without understanding bird language. Even without the Yamanaka clan's secret technique to connect minds and transmit sensory emotions, Minato could tell that these little guys were swearing profusely. I know those guys scared you. I'll help you get back at them later, okay? Rummaged through the small pocket of his Jonin vest for a moment. He pulled out a small handful of specially made pet jerky and handed it to the two little crows. The two little guys, who had been swearing non-stop, hesitated for a while after hearing that would avenge them. Only then did they reluctantly nod. They hopped closer and eagerly began munching on the jerky. After several reconnaissance missions to Summoning Island, the terrifyingly fierce animals there had truly frightened them. If not for their master's incredible skills, pulling off insane maneuvers in the dense jungle, making all kinds of extreme turns, they would have long been digested inside the stomach of some unknown raptor by now. How are things progressing on the third Hokage's side? After calming the two crows, K turned to ask Minato. Before they came to Summoning Island, no one had expected that this island, known as the Forgotten Island by the locals and not very large in size, would have such absurdly powerful wildlife. There were over 100 creatures strong enough to rival Chunin. Several clan leaders among them even possessed Jonin level speed or strength. With some training, these creatures could become excellent summoning beasts, greatly enhancing a ninja's combat power. Kud asked about Jiraya's whereabouts. Upon learning that he was still in Hidden Leaf Village, he immediately decided to use the stomach of a giant toad to transport the creatures back to Hidden Leaf Village for a summoning beast auction. Hidden Leaf Village would take 30% of the profits, he would take 30%, Minato would take 20%, and Jiraiya would take 20%. The Hokage has already cleared Training Ground Zero to serve as their temporary holding area. Jiraiya-sensei is also ready. Minato scratched his cheek, feeling a bit awkward about the situation. Discussing profit distribution within the village. This was his first time. Having been raised with the Will of Fire ideology, something about this just felt inappropriate. Then let's begin. With that, leaped off the ship and landed on the water's surface. He noticed Minato's hesitation but didn't say much. In the end, the yellow flash was just too honest. Giving Hidden Leaf Village a 30% share of the profits, to put it bluntly, this was a trade. Not just for providing an auction venue, but to exchange these profits for massive prestige, greatly accelerating their ascent to higher positions. To gain more autonomy or even leadership in the potential upcoming war. Otherwise, given K's usual style, who the hell would willingly share money with the village? With the current chaotic state of the shinobi world, where war could break out at any moment, if anything, the higher-ups should be paying him instead. Minato might not see through all this, but the third Hokage and the elders definitely did. Otherwise, they wouldn't have so cooperatively cleared out Training Ground Zero for this. Alright. Minato immediately followed K's lead and leaped onto the sea. Splash splash splash. They had barely run a kilometer, when the nearby waters suddenly became turbulent. A dark shadow, noticeably darker than the seawater, surged rapidly in their direction. K didn't stop running. From the scroll pouch on his Jonin vest, he pulled out a sealing scroll. Unrolling it quickly, then forming a seal, he pressed his hand onto the storage seal marked Release. A fish-shaped puppet, made of special materials and no larger than a palm, appeared. Under the control of the mind puppet switch cursed seal jutsu, with a flick of its tail, it dove into the churning depths. Within mere seconds, and Minato stopped in their tracks. Beneath their feet, a massive swordfish over 10 meters long slowly surfaced. Carrying the two of them, it continued advancing toward Summoning Island. Under its control, the swordfish flicked its tail rapidly, reaching speeds of over 200 kilometers per hour within just a few breaths. And it was still accelerating. This is amazing. I almost don't want to sell you now. Glance down at the swordfish beneath his feet. Having a sea transport like this might not be a bad idea. But then, he remembered that turning this giant swordfish into a proper summoning beast would require long-term taming, training its intelligence and obedience, and providing a proper habitat and constant feeding. At that thought, he immediately dismissed the idea. It wasn't that he couldn't afford it, it just wasn't worth the effort. Even Mount Mayabaku, which he often complained about, didn't require its summoners to go out and catch bugs to feed the toads. Splash, 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 they circled around Summoning Island, covering a large area. Two powerful sea beasts lurking beneath the water's surface had been repeatedly provoked by Now, they were furiously chasing after the swordfish. Minato, get ready. Kun rolled another section of the storage scroll in his hands. Two specially crafted puppet fish shot forward like arrows, crashing into the heads of the two sea beasts. As expected, both creatures instantly succumbed to the technique's control. They obediently swam toward the shoreline, joining the slowly decelerating giant swordfish. Summoning, Toadmouth Bind. Minato performed a summoning jutsu. The stomach of the giant toad instantly swallowed all three sea beasts. With that, the creatures were transported back to Mount Mayabaku. Roar, screech, moo, the moment the toad's stomach vanished, deafening beastly cries erupted from the dense jungle. Not just from the part of the coast where Ken and Minato were, but from the entire island. It was as if every creature had suddenly sensed the presence of a mortal enemy. Chaos. Unease. Fear. Hostility. The previously tranquil island erupted into a frenzy within moments. Did they notice us? Raised a hand to shield his eyes from the glaring sunlight as he gazed toward the volcano at the island's center. His maximum sensory range was 10 kilometers in diameter. Meaning he could only detect things within a 5-kilometer radius. Right now, their position was 8 kilometers away from the research facility at the island's center, which was beyond his sensory range. We circled the entire island on a swordfish. If they still haven't noticed us by now, they'd be downright incompetent. Minato also looked toward the distance. Last night, when they arrived in these waters, had summoned his crows to secretly deliver Minato's flying thunder god kunai to the research facility's main entrance. If needed, they could teleport there instantly. So right now, they weren't in a hurry at all. Chapter 26, Red-Headed Damsel, Yellow Flash. Let's go over now. If we delay, I'm afraid they'll have already destroyed the research data, sneered in disdain, expressing his contempt for Kiri's obsession with secrecy. After all, Hidden Mist Village was one of the 5 great ninja villages. But their way of doing things always carried an inexplicable sense of pettiness. Take this Summoning Island, for example. Nominally, it belonged to the Land of the Sea. However, the Land of the Sea had long since abandoned this region due to its geographic location. Situated at the far northeastern edge, beyond which lay only the endless ocean, the area was further made uninhabitable by its dangerous wildlife. Ordinary people could not safely settle there. Logically speaking, an island filled with powerful beasts that could serve as summoning creatures should have been highly valuable. Yet Hidden Mist Village went to great lengths to establish a research facility here. That kind of value should have made the Hidden Mist Village higher-ups pay serious attention to it. Even if they had concerns about territorial claims, given that the Land of Water and the Land of the Sea had some distant ties, outright occupation might not have been appropriate. But setting up a nominal collaboration to properly guard the island should have been reasonable, right? So how did Hidden Mist Village handle it? They relied on the island's remote location. Unless someone deliberately sought it out, it would be nearly impossible to discover. Instead of openly securing the island, they secretly spread rumors. Using nonsense like whoever steps on the island will lose all memories along with some minor genjutsu tricks, they scared off the residents of nearby islands, ensuring no one dared approach. They also strictly ordered all Hidden Mist Village ninjas who knew about the island to stay away unless absolutely necessary, minimizing the risk of exposure. Then, they hid the research facility deep in the dense forest, right at the center of the island within a volcanic zone. To top it off, they stationed an elite Jonin squad ready to destroy all evidence and flee at a moment's notice. This was secrecy for the sake of secrecy. Perhaps Madara was secretly manipulating everything behind the scenes, preventing Hidden Mist Village from growing too powerful, which is why they handled things so sloppily. That thought suddenly popped into K's mind, and the more he considered it, the more plausible it seemed. Otherwise, he truly couldn't understand, why would Kiri's leadership be so brainless as to set up such a strategy? Get ready. Your first time experiencing a long-distance flying thunder god might feel a bit uncomfortable. Hearing that the enemy was preparing to destroy the research data, Minato furrowed his brows slightly. Even though Hidden Leaf Village didn't have a dedicated summoning beast research program, such research was still highly valuable. If they could obtain complete data, it would undoubtedly benefit Hidden Leaf Village. Placing a hand on K's shoulder, he closed his eyes, locked onto the Flying Thunder God Kunai's coordinates within the research facility, and activated the teleportation technique. Swish, the sensation of spatial distortion and detachment passed in an instant. Boom. Before Minato and could even steady themselves at the entrance of the research facility, a deafening explosion shook the entire volcano. Rah! A bizarre, ear-piercing beastly roar echoed. An unknown force, carried by the sound, rapidly spread across the island. The creatures already howling in rage and fear on the island completely lost their minds under this mysterious influence. Some fled, while others charged straight toward the volcano. As the creatures rampaged, the entire island began to tremble violently. Shit! Hurry up! Or your wife's done for. Had just activated a wide area sensory jutsu. The moment he sensed the scene inside the research facility, he grabbed Minato and immediately used a body flicker jutsu. Inside the research facility, several researchers watched in feverish excitement as the creature in the incubation chamber slowly awoke. With just a simple stretch, it shattered the facility's walls. The Hidden Mist Village Ninja Squad, who had been preparing to destroy all the research data, froze in place upon witnessing this. Their expressions shifted from duty to anticipation as they leisurely observed the monstrous being. K's target on this mission, Hinako, was kneeling within a complex sealing formation, hands forming seals, ready at any moment to use a sealing jutsu to restrain the so-called ultimate summoning beast. Wait, you actually found me a wife? Minato was suddenly yanked by the collar and dragged along at high speed. As Q used his body flicker jutsu repeatedly, Minato's body swayed in the rushing wind. Hearing his friend's words, he, who had always thought it was just a joke, suddenly became flustered. Wait a minute. Weren't they here to destroy Kiri's summoning beast research facility? This was actually about finding him a wife? Long red hair draped over her shoulders, delicate facial features as if sculpted to perfection, a voluptuous and curvaceous figure, and a temperament as gentle as water. Are you seriously telling me this wasn't a setup? Kya? Kya? A strange, high-pitched beastly roar, like a sonic wave, shook both and Minato's eardrums. Immediately after, they heard screams, cries of pain, and desperate pleas for help. Carried Minato as they sped forward. At the same time, he narrowed his sensory range down to just the volcanic area. By concentrating his perception to such a small area, the clarity of everything within it increased dramatically. Maintaining this high-precision sensory jutsu, he formed a one-handed seal once again, and instantly transferred everything he sensed into Minato's mind. The grotesque monster that wrapped its tentacles around two researchers and stuffed them into its mouth. The terrified researchers collapsing to the ground, some even losing control of their bladders. 4 ninjas using combination jutsu to attack the monstrous creature. A young woman desperately unfolding her adamantine sealing chains, her brows tightly furrowed. Adamantine sealing chains? A young Uzumaki woman? Within his highly precise perception range, Minato could even see the girl's graceful and elegant figure, her long hair flowing in the wind, and her beautiful face tinged with fear. Wasn't lying this time. Even though he knew K had deliberately shrunk the sensory range to make him see more details. But, for once, this guy wasn't messing with him? No. With how much of a troll K was, how could he not be messing with him? Kya? Another strange and chilling screech echoed. Through his sensory abilities, K witnessed the ultimate summoning beast devour nearly half of the researchers. The 4 ninjas' combined ninjutsu attacks were completely absorbed by the beast. In fact, the monster used that energy to grow new, grotesque appendages and retaliate with elemental ninjutsu. Except for the leading Jonin, who managed to escape injury by transforming into a puddle of water, the remaining 3 ordinary ninjas, caught completely off guard, were instantly killed by the beast. Help me, someone, please save me. A trembling female voice echoed in both K and Minato's minds. Her overwhelming emotions were transmitted directly into their hearts. The moment that voice fell, Minato, who was previously being carried by K in a princess carry, suddenly twisted his body and broke free from K's grip. Then, moving even faster than K, he vanished into the tunnel in the blink of an eye. Even though their sparring matches on the ship had already proven that Minato, even without the Flying Thunder God Jutsu, was slightly faster than him with the body flicker jutsu. But that speed just now, was that really just slightly faster? Chapter 27, Flirting with Pillars, Fighting with Monsters. It was just a matter of seconds. As the voice of Ong Oka echoed in everyone's hearts for the second time, a golden flash appeared before her, as swift and dazzling as the moon emerging from behind the clouds. Her adamantine sealing chains had already reached their limit. The golden chakra chain shattered inch by inch, dissolving into specks of golden light. In this fading glow, the firm back of Minato gave her an indescribable sense of security. The warmth and radiance of his chakra presence pulled her back from the brink of despair and darkness, filling her heart with newfound hope and salvation. Rasengan. The rapidly spinning chakra sphere formed in Minato's palm. The monstrous, ferocious ultimate summoning beast lunged forward, only to be struck directly by the high-speed Rasengan, sending it flying backward and smashing hard into the laboratory wall. The steel-reinforced walls caved in from the impact, and the ground trembled violently. Within the damaged interior of the research facility, waves of scorching heat from the volcanic crater carried the pungent stench of molten lava. The ultimate summoning beast struggled to rise. The spiraling wound on its abdomen, a bloody mess of torn flesh, began regenerating at a speed visible to the naked eye. Fresh pink flesh writhed and twisted, rapidly weaving itself into new, complete muscle tissue. What was even more terrifying, another grotesque, fan-shaped organ grew from the monster's head once again. As the organ leaned back and gathered power, it suddenly began to swing violently. Sharp wind blades infused with wind chakra shot toward Minato and Ongoka. Whoosh, 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 swish, numerous flying thunder god kunai shot out in all directions. Minato swiftly picked up the stunned Ongoka and, using the flying thunder god jutsu, effortlessly dodged the incoming wind blades. Grrr. The beast let out an enraged roar. Earlier, while battling the hidden mist village ninjas, a deformed, bud-like organ had grown on its body. Now, as it inhaled and exhaled, it launched powerful water cannon blasts infused with chakra, combining them with the wind blades in relentless pursuit of Minato and Ongoka. Meanwhile, a hidden mist village Jonin, who had been reduced to a puddle of water after being struck by the beast, looked at the suddenly appearing Minato with a sinister glint in his eyes. As he reformed his upper body, preparing for a surprise attack to eliminate Minato and escape in the chaos, a hand lightly patted his shoulder. Dude, isn't it kinda rude to interrupt someone when they're trying to impress a girl?" Crouched slightly behind the half-formed hidden mist village ninja. Although his voice wasn't particularly loud, his silent and undetectable approach had already made cold sweat drip down the ninja's back. The Hazuki clan hydrification jutsu was renowned throughout the ninja world. It granted them near-complete immunity to most physical and even some ninjutsu attacks. However, the weakness of the technique was also widely known. As long as they encountered lightning style, their liquid bodies would be paralyzed, unable to maintain their fluid state. Barging in and destroying our research facility. Aren't you afraid this will spark a war between our nations? The Hazuki Jonin slowly turned his head to glance at beside him, while secretly calculating the odds. If he suddenly activated the Hazuki clan hydrification jutsu, could he evade this man's attack? After all, the opponent had already identified him as part of the Hazuki clan. But did he also know about its weakness? Should he gamble on whether or not the opponent would use lightning style? You're just some nameless extra, why waste time talking nonsense? Rolled his eyes, uninterested in wasting time with such stalling tactics. With a single hand seal, he immediately cast a Ganjutsu. At a distance of less than a meter, the Hazuki Jonin had just seen forming a seal. Before he could decide whether to counter or escape, his consciousness suddenly sank. He was instantly trapped in an endless Ganjutsu world. His previously tense body gradually relaxed, and his liquefied form reverted to its normal state. Whatever he saw in the illusion, his expression became increasingly obscene. He stood up and walked toward a nearby support pillar. With dazed, dreamy eyes, he flirted with the cold, lifeless pillar before hugging it tightly, swaying his hips while letting out creepy, perverse chuckles. The demonic illusion, Paradise, was a knee-rank Ganjutsu that had created by improving upon the D-rank demonic illusion, Hell Viewing Jutsu, the C-rank Sly Mind Effect Jutsu, and another C-rank technique. Although difficult to execute, its effects were overwhelmingly powerful. It could draw out the target's inner desires and amplify them without limit. Paired with an incredibly realistic illusionary setting and multi-sensory interference, including sight, sound, and touch, the Ganjutsu was nearly inescapable. Unless the victim's mental strength was far superior to the user's, or their willpower was unshakable enough to resist their own desires and forcibly break free despite the risk of mental damage, they were essentially doomed. Used the mind puppet switch cursed seal jutsu to control a small puppet, dragging the Hazuki Jonin out. He then had the puppet discreetly remove the terrified or unconscious researchers from the area as well. Everything was progressing exactly as he wanted. These irrelevant nuisances should stay out of Minato's love story. This is getting interesting. Carefully, closed the door behind him, leaving the battlefield to the handsome hero and beautiful heroine still locked in combat with the ultimate summoning beast inside the lab. The storyline was going exactly as planned. The heroine was in peril, and just when all hope seemed lost, the hero descended from the heavens to save her. Next, The hero just had to unleash his full power and defeat the monster. And then, how could the heroine not fall head over heels for him? Perfect? Roar. Screech. Moo. Enraged and frenzied beastly howls, accompanied by the rumbling of countless massive creatures approaching, grew louder and louder. Frowned slightly. Closing his eyes, he sensed the flying thunder god kunai he had left at the entrance of the research facility earlier. Utilizing the spatial mark Minato had engraved on it, he activated the flying thunder god jutsu. Swish, X's figure vanished from the lab. As Minato carried Yamanaka, skillfully dodging the beast's attacks, he vaguely sensed a faint spatial disturbance. Puzzled, he glanced toward the corridor they had entered from. If his perception was correct, someone had just used space-time ninjutsu. Did X summon something? But that energy felt. The ultimate summoning beast has the ability to devour all living creatures, absorb and integrate their strengths, and even assimilate different chakra natures, generating mutated organs that allow it to use corresponding elemental techniques. Nestled in his arms, Yamanaka continued relaying information about the beast. Minato had no time to dwell on the space-time anomaly. He refocused his attention on the grotesque, abominable creature before him. This fight was far from over. Chapter 28. The kilometer-wide slumber party. Standing at the summit of the volcano in the center of the island, X shielded his eyes with one hand, observing the chaotic state of the summoning island while clicking his tongue. The ultimate summoning beast from the Research Institute had unknowingly influenced the genetic level of the island's creatures, instilling in them a heightened sense of crisis when facing a formidable enemy. From the moment the first roar echoed, the entire island had descended into madness. Most of the weaker creatures, intimidated by its presence, fled toward the coastline. Even those incapable of swimming leaped into the sea, desperately seeking a chance at survival. Meanwhile, the stronger or more aggressive beasts gathered together and charged toward the location of the ultimate summoning beast, determined to fight it to the death. Several large and small birds of prey circled above the volcano's crater, staring at K, who stood at the summit's edge, shrieking restlessly. Clearly, they sensed danger but were unwilling to retreat. Keek. A falcon with crimson eyes, significantly smaller than its kin, finally lost its patience. After flapping its wings a few times to gain speed, it folded them back and shot toward K like an arrow. Hey, so it was you bullying my crows before. K immediately recognized the bird. Previously, when using his crows to scout the island, he had encountered numerous predators. However, none left a deeper impression than this peregrine falcon. Despite being smaller than the other aerial predators, its strength and speed far exceeded its peers. It could crush tree trunks as thick as a human head with a single claw, and its sharp beak could pierce through solid rock. Its speed, in particular, was terrifying, enough to make one's scalp tingle. Had his crows not been small and agile enough, combined with his expert maneuvering through the dense forest, his beloved birds would have long become nothing more than fresh droppings. Whoosh! A sharp sonic boom accompanied the falcon's dive. Clocked eyes with the falcon's sharp gaze, both refusing to look away. Mind-body switch jutsu. Snap! Under the secret technique of the Yamanaka clan, the falcon, which had been charging in a straight line, suddenly lost control. Its head tilted as it veered off course. Under X's manipulation, it flapped its wings frantically to slow down, eventually landing beside him. Fortunately, the creatures in the ninja world possessed far denser bones and stronger cells than those of the previous Earth. Otherwise, such a reckless braking maneuver at high speed would have instantly broken the bird's wings. The moment he released the technique, he seamlessly followed up with the forelimbs waiting seal. Before the falcon could react, it was slammed to the ground, almost coughing up its internal organs. Squawk. Keek. Chirp. The other raptors in the sky were completely enraged upon witnessing their leader's defeat. They flapped their wings aggressively, preparing to launch an attack on K. Looks like the timing is just right. Glanced at the beast horde surging up the volcano, nearly reaching the research facility's entrance, while the birds of prey prepared to dive. No longer waiting, he formed a series of hand seals and activated a large-scale A-rank Ganjutsu. Temple of Nirvana Jutsu. Snow-white feathers began to fall, drifting down like heavy snowfall from an icy tundra. Fueled by immense mental power, this Ganjutsu expanded to an unbelievable extent. Centered around K, the illusion spread, covering everything in a flurry of falling feathers. The raptors in the sky drooped their eyelids, spiraling downward in a slow descent. The rampaging beasts on the volcano's slopes staggered, their movements sluggish before collapsing one after another. Even those that arrived slightly later soon met the same fate. The island grew silent. Insects ceased their chirping, and the cries of birds and beasts faded away. In just under 10 seconds, the entire battlefield was filled with nothing but the sound of deep, rhythmic snoring. Ha! Let out a breath of turbid air, feeling the depletion of nearly 1/4 of his chakra. He silently made up his mind. He must find a way to increase his chakra reserves in the future. A 1-kilometer radius, this was currently the maximum range of his Temple of Nirvana jutsu. And don't think that's small. For comparison, during the Chunin exams in the original timeline, Naruto and Sasuke fought in an arena that, including the spectator stands, was no more than a few hundred meters wide. Yet here he was, covering the equivalent of 8 of those arenas by himself. In the original story, it took Kabuto and several ninja from the Hidden Sand Village and Hidden Sound Village working together to put an entire audience to sleep. If this Kanjutsu was unleashed on a battlefield, it could easily decide the outcome of a large-scale war. Boom! A loud tremor and explosion erupted from within the volcano's crater. Squinted and leaned forward, peering down in the direction of the sound. Cracks spread across the inner walls of the volcano as something violently slammed against them. Another intense explosion followed. The heavily mutated ultimate summoning beast was sent flying out of the cracks, smashing into the opposite volcanic wall. From the newly formed hole, Minato emerged, holding Ongoka around her slender waist with his left arm. With a flick of his right hand, he hurled a flying thunder god kunai directly at K's location. Meanwhile, he used the scorching volcanic walls as footholds, leaping into the air, landing directly above the beast, which had just struggled to its feet. Ongoka, having long prepared her technique, unleashed her adamantine sealing chains, binding the beast's wings tightly. Minato followed up immediately, slamming a massive Rasengan straight into the creature's skull. Already battered and exhausted from endless regeneration and energy depletion, the beast let out a horrific wail before plummeting straight into the churning lava below. Whoosh! With a flicker of movement, Minato vanished, reappearing beside K, now carrying Ongoka in a princess carry. The beast's dying screams echoed from below, slowly fading as thick black smoke billowed into the sky. Its powerless body was completely engulfed by the molten lava. Minato said he wasn't good at flirting? You definitely know how to charm women. K stared at Minato, whose seamless transitions between waist holding and princess carrying were way too smooth. This script was even better than he expected. A male lead and female lead working together to take down a terrifying monster, way more romantic than a simple hero saves the beauty moment. He never expected that a freshly hatched little kaiju could be exploited to this extent by Minato. Chapter 29. The Akshan Ongoka stared blankly at the person holding her, whose smile was as warm as the sun. She instinctively tightened her delicate arms around Minato just slightly. The pounding of her heart made her act without thinking. She leaned in. Looked at Minato, who had a dazed expression and was clumsily starting to respond. Grabbing the back of a peregrine falcon's neck, he dragged along the dumb bird, which had been hit by a sealing jutsu and knocked out, heading toward the research facility's entrance. The temperature at the volcanic crater was extremely low. For him, with chakra protecting his body, it wasn't a big deal. But if he let this falcon stay down much longer, it would be better off plucked, cleaned, and roasted. In the shinobi world, the ability to fly was extremely rare. As a result, flying summoning beasts were highly sought after. This peregrine falcon-like creature, while not as massive as some of its kind, could still carry up to 2 adult passengers. However, as the leader of the island's birds of prey, its speed and strength were exceptional. On top of that, it could be taken care of by Hidden Leaf Village's summoning beast aviary, meaning it wouldn't require too much effort to maintain. K was already considering forming a contract with it. Instead of standing around watching Minato and Ongoka flaunt their affection, wouldn't it be better to do something more productive? Hidden Leaf Village Training Ground Zero was once an almost abandoned training ground, nearly overtaken by wild animals. It was now crowded with Hidden Leaf Village ninjas. And as time passed, more and more people continued to gather. Summoning beasts were a rare resource in the shinobi world. Not to mention the ninja clans and civilian ninjas who had none. Even clans like Uchiha, Sarutobi, and Shimura, which had summoning beast lineages, weren't willing to miss this auction. At the edge of the hastily constructed auction platform, Shikaku moved among the various ninja clans and powerful civilians, seemingly calm as he tried to regulate the atmosphere, but deep inside, he was panicking like crazy. He was praying that wouldn't mess this up. The first batch of 3 summoning beasts had been out for a long time now, why hadn't the rest arrived yet? If this continued, he wouldn't be able to hold this auction together. Behind the auction stage, Jiraiya sat cross-legged on a large rock, resting his chin on one hand. He looked up at the blazing sun and felt the warmth on his nose tickle slightly. He rubbed it absent-mindedly. He, too, found it strange. With K's obsessive attention to detail, and Minato's flying thunder god jutsu, which put him above most ninjas in speed and power, how could there possibly be a problem? Sniff sniff. Jiraiya suddenly caught a whiff of a strong smell. He sneaked a glance at his right hand, the same hand that he had just scratched between his toes with. Guiltily, he looked left and right. Seeing that no one noticed, he secretly breathed a sigh of relief. He was one of the Sannin. If anyone saw him sniffing his own toe hand and finding the scent strangely addictive, that would be embarrassing. Buzz, a brief, fleeting surge of reverse summoning energy pulsed through his summoning contract. Jiraiya immediately perked up. He quickly leaped up from the ground, bit his thumb for the second time, and performed the summoning jutsu. Poof, a massive chakra-infused smoke cloud erupted. Two giant birds, their feathers soaked in stomach acid, their bones clearly broken in several places, yet sleeping as soundly as the dead, appeared behind the auction stage. Shikaku, who had been on edge for ages, instantly flashed onto the auction platform. After confirming the multiple wounds on the two giant birds, he cautiously checked their breathing, and let out a relieved sigh when he confirmed they were still alive. Damn it. Couldn't go easy when using genjutsu. Even with broken bones, these two giant birds were still fast asleep. He had almost thought they were dead. With their huge wingspans and massive frames, these birds could carry more than 10 people while flying, undoubtedly strategic-level flying summoning beasts. If they had really died, that would have been an absolute waste. The clan leaders of various ninja families all stared at the two suddenly appeared giant birds, their eyes practically glowing with greed. Clearly, they had also realized a bird's immense value. Such enormous birds. A rare find. Their long wait had finally paid off. Two female eagles, only minor fractures. After some treatment, they'll fully recover within 1 to 2 months. Starting bid, 2 million ryo each. Let's begin. Standing on the auction platform, Shikaku loudly announced after assessing the bird's condition. 2 million ryo, the Shimura clan will take them. The Kurama clan bids 3 million ryo. 3.5 million ryo. Uchiha clan, 4 million ryo. You guys don't even contribute to the village, why do you need such big birds? The Shimura clan bids 4.5 million ryo. One by one, clan leaders and elders started competing aggressively. Female eagles were far more valuable than males to them, because they could lay eggs. If properly nurtured, they could continue the bloodline for generations. The auction was heating up. Meanwhile, the civilian ninja who lacked financial resources simply watched the clan leaders argue and bid furiously without feeling anxious. Flying summoning beasts were rare, sure, but they weren't a necessity for everyone. For those without a clan background, strategic value meant nothing. What mattered to them was a summoning beast that could directly boost their combat power. Within moments, the 6 giant female eagles and hawks, which had been summoned in 3 separate waves, were completely snatched up by the clans. After a brief 2-minute pause, giant rhinos, lizards, hippos, bears, wolves, and other land-based beasts started appearing one after another. The civilian ninjas and those who preferred to train their own summoning beasts finally joined the bidding war. Watching wave after wave of massive beasts appear, Shikaku could barely contain his grin. His face was practically about to split from smiling. It didn't even matter how much money they made. Whoever bought a summoning beast would owe the Inoshikacho trio a favor. After all, these beasts were becoming increasingly rare in the ninja world. And, thanks to this auction, the Inoshikacho clan trio would almost certainly gain another seat at the High Council meetings. That was far more valuable than any amount of money. Why isn't this over yet? Jiraiya felt a sharp pain in his thumb, wincing slightly. He secretly vowed, once this was over, he was definitely going to have Kushina create a personal blood storage seal for him. He used to laugh at and Minato for being too delicate, but now, after using the summoning jutsu nearly 20 times in a row, he finally realized, those two had been right all along. All this effort, just for a little extra money. Even he had his thumb nearly bitten into raw meat. At that moment, Jiraiya sensed a toad signaling him once again to use the summoning jutsu. With a vengeful expression, he wiped his wounded thumb against his palm, gritted his teeth, and used the summoning jutsu once more. Once this was over, he was definitely going to find beautiful women to heal his wounded heart. Chapter 30, the giant clank placed one hand on Fukashi's head, activating the psycho mind transmission. Hazuki Fukashi? This guy is actually a descendant of the second Mizukage? Did he pull some strings to get a long-term assignment outside the village? If so, who wouldn't? With how things are in Kiri, anyone who could escape would. Whoa, he really knows some impressive stuff. So that's the principle behind the Hazuki clan hydrification jutsu? They call it a secret jutsu, but honestly, it's basically a bloodline limit. No wonder I can't use it. Water gun jutsu, water gun, 2 guns, great water arm jutsu. Huh? This guy has actually read Genjutsu's ninjutsu scrolls and even formed a contract with his summoning beast, the giant glam? That's insane. The more he saw, the more excited he became. Back when he worked in the analysis team, he had learned about the Hazuki clan's exclusive Hazuki clan hydrification jutsu through the memories of captured hidden mist village ninjas. Unfortunately, even though he understood the entire principle and training process, water-style mastery, still couldn't let him perform this secret jutsu. But with powerful Hazuki clan water-style techniques like the water gun jutsu at his disposal, he was already making a huge profit. Not to mention the legacy of the second Mizukage. In the original story, Genjutsu didn't have many appearances, but the few episodes he was in were enough for K to grasp his immense strength. Even though he had no real fighting spirit during the battle against the allied shinobi forces and was constantly holding back, he still managed to toy with them like they were nothing. His steaming danger tyranny even dragged the second Tsushi Kage, the creator of the bloodline selection, to the grave with him. That was absurd. The bloodline selection was a level above the bloodline limit. With such a powerful legacy, as long as he found someone with enough talent to inherit it, he could at least cultivate a Kage-level ninja. How much sorrow can one bear? Like a eunuch in a brothel. Glanced at Fukashi with pity. This guy actually had decent water-style talent, but unfortunately, his Ganjutsu talent was abysmal. He couldn't wield the technique's true power. The reason he pulled strings to get this external assignment wasn't to escape the bloody mist policy, but to escape the gazes of his clan. Even though he had received Genjutsu's legacy and the clan's full support. Because he had failed to meet their expectations, the pressure from the clan elders' hopes and disappointment, as well as the mockery and scorn from his fellow clansmen, was suffocating him. Ugh. Ugh. Fukashi struggled to wake up as temporarily ended the memory reading. The mental trauma from the A-rank Ganjutsu, along with his desperate attempts to resist it by colliding his spiritual energy in a near-suicidal manner, left him dizzy, his vision darkening as he dry-heaved. Why not just lie down and take it? Wouldn't that make it easier? Although K pitied Fukashi's situation, he had no intention of going easy on him. Just like if he had fallen into the hands of another village's ninja, they wouldn't show him any mercy. In a world of assassins where everyone had blood on their hands, being soft-hearted as a ninja was the same as seeking death. Ignoring Fukashi's retching, K swiftly executed the mind-body switch jutsu and effortlessly seized control of his body. He recalled the chakra requirement to summon the giant clam that stored the summoning scroll, based on the memories he had just read. Then, controlling Fukashi's body, he bit his fingertip and rapidly formed hand seals. Boar dog bird monkey ram. Poof. A cloud of chakra smoke rose. A massive clam, over 2 meters in diameter, appeared in the laboratory. Its tough outer shell gave off an aura of incredible resilience. Still controlling Fukashi's body, patted the clam's shell. The tightly closed clam slowly opened. Inside lay a large summoning contract scroll, about 1 meter in diameter. How dare you? That's our summoning beast. How could you do this? Fukashi's soul was forced into a corner of his consciousness, his eyes filled with rage as he watched the contract scroll being taken out. You talk too much. Confused his spiritual energy with his chakra, transforming it into overwhelming yin release energy, and struck Fukashi's soul with a powerful palm. Already injured, Fukashi's spiritual energy suffered another severe blow. The deep, soul-crushing pain caused his spirit to curl up into a tiny ball, letting out faint groans of agony. Meanwhile, K's main body, waiting at the side, took the contract scroll that had been handed over. Opening it, he saw that the first name on the scroll was Hazuki Genjutsu, followed by more than 10 other names. He sighed in exasperation. It was clear that the Hazuki clan had desperately tried to cultivate a successor worthy of Genjutsu's legacy. But unfortunately, after more than 10 attempts, every single one had ended in failure. Well, it's a hassle, but I'd rather go through the trouble than risk someone being resurrected by Edo Tensei and still being able to summon this thing. Took out a blood storage vial from his ninja vest pocket, dipped his finger in fresh blood, and signed his own name at the bottom of the scroll. As he felt the contract binding him and the summoning beast, he nodded in satisfaction. Then, forming a quick hand seal, intricate sealing patterns rapidly condensed in his palm. He slammed his hand onto the contract scroll, right over Genjutsu's name. The sealing technique spread rapidly, invading the contract's core and directly severing the link between Genjutsu and the giant clam clan. Genjutsu's name, once written in blood and still bright red even after decades, gradually turned pitch black as it lost its contract power. Without hesitation, continued applying the contract seal. The seal was an advanced sealing technique of the Uzumaki clan. In the original story, Minato had used this exact seal to sever the contract between Obito and the Ninetales, preventing him from summoning it again. When K had studied sealing techniques under Kushina, he had specifically focused on mastering this one to avoid falling into Madara's schemes in the future. His proficiency was almost on par with his effortless use of the 4 limbs weighting seal. Slap, 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 he applied the contract seal over 10 more times. With the final seal placed over Fukashi's name, the summoned giant clam dissolved into smoke and disappeared from the research facility. Looked at the contract scroll. Now, his was the only name that remained in vivid dread. After a moment of thought, he summoned the giant clam once again and handed the contract scroll back to it for safekeeping. According to Fukashi's memories, the giant clam clan lived in an unknown, uncharted sea far beyond the reach of the shinobi world. The only reason the second Mizukage had managed to form a contract with them was because he had done something as reckless as Jiraiya once did. Without having any prior summoning contracts, he had blindly attempted a summoning jutsu. The only difference was, Jiraiya had been teleported to Mount Mayabaku by the summoning force. But thanks to his exceptional chakra reserves, which were already vast even in his youth, Genjutsu had instead summoned the giant clam clan's ancestor, a massive clam known as Shen. Chapter 31, The System Knows What Minato Did. What a pity, nothing about Senjutsu. Smacked his lips in dissatisfaction and dispelled the psycho mind transmission on Fukashi. According to the memories, although the number of clams wasn't as large as those in Mount Mayabaku or Richie Cave, they still surpassed most summoning beast clans. Some of these clams had abilities that were no less impressive than the dazzling toads of Mount Mayabaku. Clams that released special mirage-inducing mist to enhance Kanjutsu, clams with absurdly strong defense, acting as living shields, clams that produced highly corrosive acid, capable of dissolving almost anything, clams proficient in water style. Aside from being unable to speak and needing mirages to facilitate complex communication, their only real flaw was the lack of a senjutsu inheritance. You just wait. Wait for our revenge. We will not stop until you're dead. Fukashi curled up in pain in the corner. The agony from deep within his soul caused his body to spasm and tremble uncontrollably. His voice was hoarse and strained as if squeezed through clenched teeth. The Hazuki clan? Hey, things aren't looking too good for Hidden Mist Village lately. Waved his hand dismissively. Hidden Mist Village was in complete chaos. With Madara pulling the strings from behind the scenes, the Bloody Mist policy was still wreaking havoc. The militant faction had gone mad, while the conservatives lived in constant fear. The Hazuki clan, which held significant influence in Hidden Mist Village but had never taken a clear stance, was caught in the middle of the storm, too busy to care about anything else. By the time the Third Great Ninja War began, even if the Hazuki clan learned that had inherited Genjutsu's power, they would still prioritize dealing with the war under the pressure of the village. And once the war ended, with Kiri's internal power struggles and the further intensification of the Bloody Mist policy, a series of measures targeting bloodline clans would begin. The Hazuki clan would be wiped out before the Uchiha clan even fell. Revenge on me? Who's going to do it? That last remaining Hazuki, Suigetsu, who was taken by Orochimaru to be a test subject and then kept as a pet fish. Give the kid a break, will you? You will regret this. Swoosh, as his voice fell, Fukashi's entire body collapsed like a puddle of water, dissolving into a flowing liquid before completely disintegrating. A massive amount of chakra began dispersing into the surroundings. Within mere seconds, all traces of life were gone. He had used hydrofication jutsu to fully decompose his own body, committing suicide. I'm not Hiruzen, and you are not Denzo. Crossed his arms, never once lifting a finger to stop Fukashi's suicide. Because from the very beginning, his fate was already sealed. In the shinobi world, no clan would want one of their own to be captured alive by an enemy. It wasn't just about village secrets being leaked, bloodline abilities and secret techniques were at risk of falling into enemy hands. The current state of the shinobi world was already tense. By taking down this summoning island, they could claim it was part of the Land of the Sea, and Hidden Leaf Village had simply destroyed a cruel and inhumane secret research facility run by an unknown faction. Hidden Mist Village had no real justification to protest. Even if they were angry, they'd have no choice but to swallow their resentment. If they had captured a Hazuki clan Jonin alive. If the Hidden Mist Village higher-ups didn't know, fine. But the moment they found out, the militant faction would immediately push the Hazuki clan to retaliate against Hidden Leaf Village. Such a chain reaction was something that no one, except maybe Denzo, would want to see. Snake ran monkey boar horse tiger. Fire style, great fireball jutsu. Formed hand seals and, using his barely proficient fire jutsu, evaporated all the water stains on the ground. Only after ensuring that Fukashi had truly left no remains behind did he turn and leave the laboratory. Inside the now empty research facility, the dozen or so researchers who had been imprisoned earlier were trembling in fear as they dismantled and packed up the laboratory's various equipment. 3 of Minato's shadow clones were stationed there, 2 guarding the front and rear entrances of the facility, while the last one was patrolling the hallway, overseeing the work. The shadow noticed approaching and immediately asked, "Is it done?" He committed suicide before I could ask anything. Understood. The shadow clone showed a knowing expression. After being a ninja for so many years, he naturally understood how these things worked. It was just that, in daily life, especially when dealing with his comrades, He preferred not to assume the worst about people. Have all the summoned beasts been sent back? What about your real body? Yeah, well. About that. Why are you stammering? Did you go somewhere to sneak a kiss? Huh? No. Stop messing with me. I just went home with her to sort out some documents, seriously. Major alteration to an important character's fate, the world line has deviated, obtained, 1 trait duplication, 1 trait removal, 1 trait upgrading, blue, 1 trait downgrading, 1 gifting opportunity. The sudden system notification rang in X's mind. This was solid proof, Minato was truly the chosen one of this era. This reward was ridiculously generous. But as he looked at the completely sincere face of Minato, X suddenly realized, holy crap, honest people are terrifying liars. That utterly genuine expression, for a second, he almost believed that Minato really had just gone to help Oka sort out some documents. Sorting out documents? Sorting out documents? If it weren't for the system's notification, he would have slapped the message right onto Minato's face and asked, who the hell sorts documents and ends up causing a major deviation in fate? There had to be something more. If not, he would walk around Hidden Lee Village's busy shopping district naked with a butt plug. Don't make such absolute statements. Otherwise, your real body will have a hard time explaining later. Considering the generous system rewards, he patted the shadow clone's shoulder with a meaningful look. Sigh, what will it take for you to believe me? Minato's shadow clone looked at him with a face full of grievance and helplessness. Did his friend really not know his character by now? If your real body appears next to me within 3 seconds, I'll believe you. Alright. Poof. Minato's shadow clone left a flying thunder god mark on the wall and then vanished into a puff of chakra smoke. When a shadow clone disperses, its memories return to the real body. If nothing had really happened, then, given Minato's personality, forget 3 seconds, he would have reappeared within 1 second. But unfortunately, even after a whole minute had passed, there was still no sign of Minato. Why do I feel bitter all of a sudden? Stared at the unresponsive flying thunder god mark, his expression shifting through various emotions. Damn it. Screw waiting for tomorrow. I'm leaving for Hidden Lee Village tonight. Chapter 32, Purple Water Mastery. Outside the main gate of the Research Institute, on the massive rock blocking the entrance, sat cross-legged, opening his personal panel, which he hadn't examined in detail for a long time. Host, Yamanaka, Career, Ninja, Active Traits, Transmigrator, Red, Ian Release Mastery, Purple, Spatial Insight, Purple, Shout and It Comes, Purple, Handsome, Blue, Memory Master of the Shinobi World, Blue, Water Style Mastery, Blue, Inactive Traits, Stealthy Crawler, White, Fragile yet Tenacious, White, Why Are You Guy? White, Always Smiling, White, Trait Extraction, 0, Trait Gifting, 4, Trait Duplication, 1, Trait Removal, 1, Trait Upgrade, 1, Blue, Trait Downgrade, 1, I actually accumulated 4 gifting chances? Glanced at the long personal panel, scrolling through the system log messages. 1 mission completed with the 3 little ones. 1 kill, Food Key. 1 disruption, Takura. 1 more disruption, Minato. I should clear out these white traits later, there are too many of them. Muttering to himself, he then shifted his focus to the remaining rewards. Trait duplication, no need for further explanation. To perfect the Flying Thunder God Jutsu, he had been eyeing Minato's ultra-fast reactions trait for a while now. As for trait removal, it didn't seem necessary at the moment. However, he couldn't deny that its value was even higher than trait duplication. Just imagine, Nagato controlled the 6 paths of pain, just about to make a move. Activated trait removal and instantly striped away his Rinnegan trait. With the 6 paths bodies losing their control source, they instantly GG. Now, a blinded Nagato, left with only Uzumaki clan chakra reserves and basic ninjutsu passed down by Jiraiya. Kekek. Grinned, letting out a sinister laugh. After enjoying his amusement for a moment, he turned to his next reward, the trait upgrade. Upgrading a blue trait directly to purple, there was no need to elaborate on how precious that was. But, was it worth using? Looking at his 3 blue traits on the system panel, his indecision reached new heights. If his blue traits were things like Minato's chakra storage, or fortune, guise, extreme recovery, gemas, influenced by greatness, he wouldn't hesitate for a second. Instant upgrade. But his current 3 blue traits were Water Style Mastery, Memory Master of the Shinobi World, Handsome. Upgrade? Felt like a waste of such a great reward. Not upgrade? If he didn't use the reward to strengthen himself, was he planning to wait until he died and chat with the Sage of 6 Paths in the Pure Land? This damn system, couldn't it at least show a preview of the upgraded trait? Grumbled in his heart. After a brief hesitation, he decided to use the upgrade on water style mastery. Neither handsome nor memory master of the shinobi world directly boosted his combat strength. And in this brutal ninja world, strength was the ultimate foundation. Buzz, a vast amount of water style training experience surged into his mind as the trait upgraded. Hazuki Clan Hydrification Jutsu, Water Gun Jutsu, Water Mirror Jutsu, Sensing Water Sphere, Mighty Water Arm, Medical Water Style, Water Mosquito, Medical Water Style, Jellyfish. Even techniques like the Hazuki Clan Hydrification Jutsu now felt second nature. Jutsus he had only briefly seen an hour ago from the second Mizukage's legacy now felt as if he had practiced them for years. Water-style techniques he had extracted from other people's memories during his time in the analysis division resurfaced in his mind. Fierce water, surging water, razor-sharp water, corrosive water, gentle water. Water was both destruction and rebirth. It was the hardest and the softest. He opened his eyes and raised his right hand. A stream of water slithered and danced across his palm, almost as if it had a life of its own. In the next moment, his entire right arm liquefied, becoming a semi-transparent, fluid-like state. Partial hydrification jutsu. Feels kinda weird. He observed his transformed arm, then used his left hand to poke at his right hand. His left index finger passed straight through the palm of his right hand, causing small splashes of water. After deactivating the Hazuki Clan hydrification jutsu, his right hand remained completely unharmed. Does it work by slightly reducing the body's water content, like sweating? Glanced at the water droplets that had splashed onto the ground. Forming a hand seal with one hand, he absorbed a large amount of moisture from the air. His body visibly grew bulkier and stronger, his power surging in an instant. The mighty water arm jutsu. It allows me to draw water from the air, but if there's not enough, it'll start consuming the body's own water supply. He proceeded to test out all the water-style techniques that affected the body. While marveling at the genius of the Hazuki clan's ancestors, he also finally understood why Suigetsu from Shippuden was constantly drinking water. For members of the Hazuki clan, who had inherited their bloodline, learning these secret techniques wasn't that difficult. The real challenge was figuring out how to absorb enough moisture from the air while using them. But for now, that wasn't a problem at all. Estimating his current abilities, he figured the only thing separating him from Tobirama's water-style mastery was chakra reserves. So the threshold for bloodline limits is a purple tier mastery trait? As he repeatedly experienced the Hazuki clan hydrification jutsu's effects on his body, a new anticipation began to grow. When he eventually obtained purple tier traits for other elemental releases, what kind of bloodline limits could he create? After fully testing and adapting to the abilities granted by the system, he looked around and saw that Minato still hadn't returned. With his right hand still partially liquefied, he began shaping a Rasengan in his palm, gradually infusing it with water-style nature transformation. Boom! His arm exploded into a splash of water. Stunned for a moment, he refused to accept defeat and tried again. Buzz, boom. Buzz buzz, boom. Buzz buzz buzz, boom. Over and over, his arm burst into water, only to reform again. For over an hour, he repeatedly failed, nearly exhausting his chakra reserves. Only thanks to Shout and It Comes, granting him insanely precise chakra control, did he finally start grasping the first hints of a solution. But how much longer would it take to actually master it? No clue. He had learned countless jutsu since childhood, including S-rank forbidden techniques. But never had he encountered a jutsu that felt this impossible to pull off. It was insanely difficult. The high-speed rotation of the Rasengan made water style incredibly unstable. It was like trying to compress dozens of high-pressure water blades, sharp enough to cut through steel, into a single sphere. If any of those blades even slightly brushed against each other, the whole thing detonated instantly. And the worst part? As the Rasengan spun faster, those water blades stretched and distorted unpredictably. How the hell is anyone supposed to make this work? There's no way Naruto managed to create the Rasen Shuriken without Kishimoto giving him a cheat. Chapter 33, the universe's favorite Sq was feeling a bit excited because the purple trait, Water Style Mastery, had brought a noticeable improvement. However, his excitement was quickly doused like a bucket of cold water when he failed to execute the Water Style Rasengan. But he was never the type to give up easily. Sitting cross-legged on a rock, his eyes gazed blankly at the distant horizon. While slowly recovering his chakra, he continued to ponder over the mechanics of the Water Rasengan in his mind. He had been in the Naruto world for more than 10 years. Due to the pressure of survival in the past, he had never slacked off in his training. After the system activated, though, he hadn't been this focused on researching and training for a long time. The idea of creating a Water Rasengan reignited his enthusiasm for training. Time passed, moment by moment. The sunset on the horizon cast a golden-red glow over the vast blue ocean. 8 surviving researchers had been busy since noon and, by evening, had finally moved all the removable experimental equipment outside the research facility. Years of research data had also been categorized and packed accordingly. The mast sailboat that had been temporarily stationed a dozen nautical miles away was now anchored in a bay on the side of the summoning island. At last, before the sun fully dipped below the horizon, Minato and Ongoka reappeared outside the research facility, holding a stack of so-called research materials that were barely as thick as a finger. 3 seconds? Cast a disdainful glance at Minato. Something got delayed, Minato replied awkwardly, his toes practically digging into the ground. His entire face, from his neck to his earlobes, was flushed red like a boiled shrimp. It wasn't like he wanted this to happen. But at the time, he really couldn't just leave. I get it. Smirked mischievously. Seeing Ongoka hiding behind Minato, too embarrassed to even show her face, he immediately understood the situation. Even if nothing too intimate happened, their relationship had definitely progressed significantly. Well, it's getting late. Let me handle these pieces of equipment, and we should set off for our return journey soon. Minato, flustered, quickly found an excuse to change the subject. Seeing that merely waved him off impatiently, he wasted no time dragging Ongoka along to summon his toads to help transport the research equipment and materials back to Hidden Leaf Village. A passionate couple, huh? TSK, muttered enviously, just as he was about to use his trait duplication to take Minato's ultra-fast reactions. His gaze swept over Ongoka's traits, and he was momentarily stunned. Name, Uzumaki Ongoka. Career, researcher. Traits, overflowing energy, purple, Kagura mind's eye, blue, sealing mastery, blue, beauty, green, mutual devotion, green, huh? Where did this extra one come from? Earlier, back in the research facility, he had already checked Ongoka's traits when Minato was saving her. If he remembered correctly, she originally only had overflowing energy, Kagura mind's eye, sealing mastery, and beauty. Overflowing energy was the same as Kashinas, greatly increasing her chakra reserves. Most likely, it was an innate trait of the Uzumaki clan due to their pure bloodline. Kagura mind's eye was another natural Uzumaki ability. Her ability to project her voice directly into his and Minato's minds earlier was probably due to this trait. As for sealing mastery and beauty, there was nothing unusual about them. But this suddenly appeared. Mutual devotion? Mutual devotion, green, when experiencing a sincere romantic relationship and being deeply loved by someone, if the loved one's abilities surpass one's own, then one's own abilities will gradually increase to match the loved one. The world will already gives its golden boy cheat abilities, now it's even looking after his girlfriend. Looked up at the sky in exasperation. He really couldn't understand. If it was just because Minato saved Ongoka, and the young girl, inexperienced in the ways of the world, developed feelings for him due to the suspension bridge effect, that would be understandable. But, mutual devotion? What the hell was that? How did these two manage to become completely in sync and form a mutual love bond in less than a day of knowing each other? What the hell did these two do at noon? Already frustrated by his failure with Water Rasengan, took another heavy blow to his heart. Even though it was just a green trait, its meaning was profound, and its effect was ridiculously powerful. At her current level, Ongoka, aside from her naturally enviable deep chakra reserves, was actually weaker than many experienced Chunin. But Minato? One of the top young powerhouses in the ninja world. He might not yet be able to match someone as monstrous as the third Raikage, but he was undoubtedly at Kage level. With the boost from this mutual devotion, Ongoka was probably going to start improving at an insane rate soon. Glanced at his personal panel and the unclaimed rewards. After a brief moment of self-consolation, he decisively shifted his attention back to Minato, who was summoning toads again to help transport the research materials and equipment to Hidden Leaf Village. Copy Minato's ultra-fast reactions. Obtained ultra-fast reactions, purple, grants an innate ultra-high neural response speed, making the world appear in slow motion. Significantly enhances reaction speed, hand seal speed, chakra circulation speed, and jutsu casting speed. As the system notification sounded, had just activated the trait when he felt a tingling sensation on his scalp. The world before him gradually slowed down. Whether it was Minato repeatedly using the summoning jutsu or the researcher's moving equipment, everything appeared as if it had been put into slow motion. Bullet time? X's eyes widened slightly. He hadn't expected ultra-fast reactions to be this overpowered. He lifted his arm and attempted to form hand seals. His previous speed of 5 seals per second had now increased significantly, reaching an astonishing 7 seals per second. He could even clearly feel that this wasn't his reaction speed limit, it was simply the limit of his hand and wrist's physical ability. Glancing at Minato, who was still busy in the distance, was about to return to the mast sailboat early to test other enhancements brought by ultra-fast reactions. But just then, the system's notification sounded again. Compatibility detected. Shout and it comes. Purple. Ultra-fast reactions. Purple. Fusion? Yes or no? Yes. Didn't hesitate for a second. Previously, when, somewhat skilled, fused with Memory Palace, the new trait, Memory Master of the Shinobi World, had turned out to be incredibly useful, even though the name was a bit ridiculous. The ability to recall forgotten memories alone was invaluable to him. Now, with two purple traits merging, there was no way the result would be worse than before. Chapter 34, 10 meters of obliteration. The moment the trait fusion started. When, shout and it comes, was first activated, the sensation of all chakra meridians appearing in his mind resurfaced. However, this time, it wasn't just the chakra meridians. Every densely packed cell in his body, every strand of muscle and fascia, every bone, every beat of his organs. Obtained, 0 frame start, red, 0 frame start, red, innate powerful mental strength, neural reaction speed, and chakra control, granting an unparalleled talent. Significantly boosts chakra control, body control, neural reaction speed, and jutsu casting speed. As expected. Glanced at the trait name, his cheek twitching slightly. He already knew that anything produced by the system, whether drawn or fused, was rarely serious. He had just gotten, shout and it comes. And now comes, 0 frame start. The effects were indeed getting stronger, but the names were getting more and more ridiculous. Host, Yamanaka, career, ninja, active traits, transmigrator, red, 0 frame start, red, Yin release mastery, purple, spatial insight, purple, water style mastery, purple, handsome, blue, memory master of the shinobi world, blue, inactive traits, stealthy crawler, white, fragile yet tenacious, white, why are you guy? White, always smiling, white, trait extraction, 0, trait gifting, 4, trait duplication, 0, trait removal, 1, trait upgrade, 0, trait downgrade, 1, forget it, forget it. Looked at the system interface filled with bright red traits and chose to ignore the ridiculous name. After all, names were just empty labels. What mattered was the effect. The new trait, 0 frame start, had fused, shout and it comes, and ultra-fast reactions, fully linking his bodily talents together. Could clearly feel it. The surge in body control allowed him to precisely manipulate every ounce of strength in his body. As swift as a tiger, as steady as a boulder. There was no doubt, this transformation would elevate his taijutsu to a whole new level. As for chakra control, neural reaction speed, and jutsu casting speed, his arm turned into liquid as chakra rotated in his palm. In less than a second, a Rasengan was fully formed. About 1/3 faster than when I first got, shout and it comes. After roughly testing his jutsu casting speed, attempted to infuse water-style nature transformation into the Rasengan. Buzz buzz buzz, the pale blue chakra sphere in his palm gradually darkened into a deep blue. With his greatly enhanced chakra control and exponentially boosted reaction speed, continuously fine-tuned the violent energy within the water Rasengan. Originally, it would explode in 3 seconds. But now, its duration kept increasing, and its spinning speed kept accelerating. 5 seconds, 10 seconds, 15 seconds, 30 seconds. As the water Rasengan spun at its maximum speed, the razor-sharp water blades emitted a piercing hum. I've mastered it. His expression lit up with joy. But in that split second of distraction, the violent energy instantly lost control. The water Rasengan in his hand started forming irregular protrusions. Buzz, boom. The out-of-control water Rasengan exploded, unleashing terrifying power that instantly devoured the rock beneath his feet, pulverizing everything within a 10-meter radius. Minato let out a startled cry as he saw engulfed by the jutsu's blast. Just as he was about to charge in despite the residual shockwaves, Ongoka firmly grabbed his arm. He is fine. It looks like he used the same space-time jutsu as you and retreated into the lab. Huh? Minato, overwhelmed by worry, hesitated for a moment. Then, he quickly recalled the space-time fluctuations he had vaguely sensed when saving Ongoka before. After sensing the spatial fluctuations left at the center of the jutsu explosion and comparing them with the flying thunder god marks he had previously left in the research lab, he confirmed the source of the space-time disturbance. His brain froze for a few seconds before his face was filled with speechlessness and frustration. The flying thunder god jutsu, plus a Rasengan infused with nature transformation. His best friend had been hiding such a trump card all along. Back during their sparring match on the ship, this guy had definitely been holding back on him. The violent residual shockwaves of the jutsu gradually faded. The place where the boulder originally stood had now transformed into a deep, sunken crater. The steel gate hidden behind the boulder was riddled with scars from the impact of the jutsu. Countless razor-sharp water blades, fine as strands of hair, had completely pierced through the steel gate, leaving behind numerous tiny slits. Everyone witnessing this scene felt a chill run down their spine. Even the steel gate, which was merely at the edge of the jutsu's blast zone, had been shredded like this. If this had hit a person instead, not even a piece of flesh would be left intact. Creak, boom. With a groan, the research lab's steel door finally collapsed, crashing into the massive crater left by the water Rasengan. Who had just reached out to push the door open, twitched at the corner of his eye as he looked at the scene before him. He had only felt that relying on the Hazuki clan hydrification jutsu was a bit risky earlier, so he had used the Flying Thunder God to escape just in case. But he hadn't expected the actual destructive power to be this terrifying. So it's just like the Rasen Shuriken. A nanoscale water blade that can completely destroy cells? Crouched down, ran his fingers across the fine cut marks on the steel door, and examined the traces left in the crater. He let out a silent sigh of relief. Thankfully, he didn't get cocky just now. If he hadn't dodged in time. Hydrification? Even his water molecules would have been obliterated. I can't believe it actually worked. Minato crouched beside K, also running his fingers across the mirror-smooth surface of the crater. 3 years ago, he and K had spent 4 whole months developing the Rasengan based on extreme shape transformation. After succeeding in creating it, the two of them had theorized about combining it with nature transformation. But the difficulty was too high, so they had given up on the idea at the time. Yet now, his best friend had actually done it. If this worked with water style, then what about wind style? Minato, am I awesome or what? Grinned smugly and slapped Minato's shoulder without restraint. Even though his water Rasengan was still unstable and exploded with the slightest distraction, as long as he successfully pulled it off once, he could do it again, and again. With enough practice, perfecting this move was just a matter of time. Yeah, you're awesome. Minato sighed helplessly but still played along, offering his praise. After a brief pause, he suddenly said, have you named this technique yet? If not, I came up with a few good ones: water style, Rasengan Super Speed Annihilation Zero style. Or water style, Ultra Spin Flying Blade Destruction. Stop. Instantly froze at the ridiculous, over-the-top names. If his jutsu actually got labeled with something that cringe, he could already imagine the sheer second-hand embarrassment of having to answer when his teammates asked what it was called after a battle. Still, it needed a name, just not one of Minato's ridiculous suggestions. Chapter 35, 3 Days of Torment, Lifetime of Luxury. The shimmering sea reflected the sunlight as a 3-masted sailing ship, its sails billowing, steadily made its way toward the borders of the Land of Fire. Standing at the ship's bow, Minato and Ongoku held hands, enjoying each other's company. They laughed and thought about their childhood memories and personal growth. Even though they had been talking like this for 3 days straight, it still felt like they had endless things to share. On the ship's aft deck, 2 crows were cawing wildly at a falcon, which was chained to the mast. From time to time, they would scavenge scraps of cloth, broken wood, and rusty nails from various corners of the ship, then drop them onto the restrained falcon from the air. Had it not been for forbidding them from going too far, those 2 troublemakers would have probably already dropped something much worse on the falcon's head. The falcon, shackled by chains around its legs and unable to fly or fight back, had been tormented for 3 days and had completely given up resisting. Its struggle and anger were not only futile but also seemed to encourage the crows to mock it even more. What else could it do but surrender to its fate? What's the point of being so stubborn? Wouldn't it be better to follow me? You'd get good food and a comfortable life. Wearing sunglasses and a pair of brightly colored beach shorts, lounged lazily on a beach chair. He glanced sideways at the falcon, which remained silent on the deck. Speaking in a gentle, coaxing tone, he tried to persuade this fierce yet incredibly proud creature. Caw! A weak cry came from the falcon. K's eyes lit up. This was the first time in 3 days that the falcon had responded to him. He immediately jumped up from his chair, formed a hand seal, and used the mind-body transmission jutsu, linking his emotions with the falcon's. Repeating his words again, he waited for its response. The falcon lifted its gaze to meet his for a moment but then tucked its head beneath its wing, clearly in no mood to interact. However, through the technique, its emotions transmitted clearly. Sadness? Grief? A desire to die? Wait a second, buddy. All I'm asking is for you to be my subin and occasionally serve as a flying mount. Is that really such a tragic fate? Wouldn't you rather have free food, a roof over your head, and the chance to flirt with some female falcons in the breeding house? Why are you so dead set against this? squatted beside the falcon and gave its wing a light pat. Screech. The falcon suddenly lifted its head and let out a furious cry. This time, the emotions that accompanied it were much stronger and clearer. You think I killed your wives? Wives? Plural? Was momentarily stunned, then smacked the bird on the head. What the hell? Even as a transmigrator, he hadn't dared to start a harem, yet this falcon had managed to do it first. Where was the justice? Where were the rules? Oh. Wait. Did summoning creatures even have laws governing things like that? And weren't falcons supposed to be monogamous? Hawks too, right? So what the hell was going on here? In the animal kingdom, opposites attract, but how did this falcon manage to flip the rules and make same equals different? Hold up. Aren't falcons and hawks supposed to have reproductive barriers? How messed up is your bloodline? Damn. The Naruto world really is full of weird stuff. As these thoughts flashed through his mind, he looked at the falcon, whose eyes were blazing with anger, as if it wanted to tear a chunk of flesh off him. With an exasperated sigh, he used the false surroundings jutsu. There were only a handful of raptors on the summoning island. He wasn't an idiot, why would he kill them? Those creatures were rare resources for Hidden Leaf Village. Some even had a market value. Besides, once they returned to Hidden Leaf Village, wouldn't the clans who had purchased the female falcons be happy to have more baby falcons? As for this particular falcon he had chosen, while its size was a little lacking, it was still the undisputed ruler of the raptors on the island. Which ninja wouldn't be envious of such a magnificent beast? The old foxes in the ninja clans were all shrewd. If they didn't try to capture it and drag it into submission, that would already be considered quite ethical. There was no way they would stand in the way of a reunion between mates. The C-rank Genjutsu could wrap a layer of illusion over whatever the eyes perceived. Using this technique, he extracted scenes from his memory palace, specifically, from the summoning beast breeding house. He reconstructed the environment where contracted summoning beasts lived after being taken in and, with precise detail, replicated the female falcons he had seen that day inside the illusionary breeding house. Chirp. The falcon tilted its head, staring dumbfounded at the shifting scene before it. 10 minutes later, after watching the illusionary reenactment he had conjured, the falcon finally understood, its mates were all in another place, living comfortably. And as long as it became his summoning beast, it would soon be able to join them. Screech chirp. Screech. Gone was its despairing, defeated demeanor. Its sharp gaze swept over the two crows before it cried out repeatedly at K. Animals with great power in the ninja world often had higher intelligence than ordinary creatures. Even though this falcon hadn't undergone specialized training as a summoning beast, its intelligence was roughly that of a 10-year-old child. Now that it believed K's words, it no longer resisted the idea of becoming a summoning beast. In fact, it even found the deal quite appealing. After all, raising multiple mates wasn't easy. Food and shelter provided, no need to worry about feeding its mates or future offspring. How could it refuse such a bargain? Still, that didn't mean it had forgotten how it had been tormented for 3 days. The two crows, who had been casually preening each other while enjoying the show, suddenly stiffened under the falcon's piercing glare. Feeling the weight of its gaze, they shuddered and huddled together, pitifully looking to K for help. Ahem. They were just scared of you before. A little emotional outburst is normal, right? K patted the falcon's wing, trying to smooth things over. Those crows had been in the breeding house for years, he really didn't want to see them get bullied. Screech screech chirp chirp. Exactly. They're so tiny, not even enough to fill the gap between your teeth. Why not keep them around to serve you tea and carry your things instead? Screech screech. Of course, of course. From now on, they're your little underlings. They have to listen to you. Screech. Alright, alright. Now, let's sign this contract, mutual consent, fair and square. After a bit more persuasion, the falcon finally, though reluctantly, nodded in agreement. Without hesitation, K pulled out a blank scroll from his Jonin vest and used his own blood to inscribe the summoning contract. He guided the falcon to drop a single bead of blood onto the scroll and press its talon onto the paper, completing the contract. Alright. Let's go, time to feast and enjoy life. Clapped the falcon's wing, grinning from ear to ear. Flying Mound, unlocked. Chapter 36, Pidgeot, I choose you. Wahoo! Pidgeot, execute a figure-8 maneuver and then go for a high-speed dive and climb. Firmly anchored his feet onto the falcon's back using chakra, spreading his arms wide as the strong wind rushed against his face. The sky flipped upside down. At this moment, he felt truly free. The vast sky, dense forests, remote villages, and rivers cutting through the woodland. He momentarily set aside the sight of a large green-skinned toad sprinting along the main road, its hind legs kicking up dust like a galloping horse. Everything before his eyes was so vivid and beautiful. After indulging in the thrill of high-altitude flight for over an hour, finally used the spatial coordinates on the Flying Thunder God kunai from Minato's ninja pouch to teleport back onto the Toad's back. Can't you use your own Flying Thunder God marker? Minato glanced at the kunai on his waist, then helplessly rubbed his temples. He was genuinely happy that his close friend had learned Flying Thunder God jutsu. But using his Flying Thunder God marks all the time. It gave him an odd sensation, like wearing pants while someone else kept pulling them down. This was just a weird picture. I could, but the Flying Thunder God is a lethal move. I don't plan on letting others know I've mastered it. Casually hooked an arm around Minato's neck. He made no attempt to hide his lack of trust in Hidden Leaf Village's higher-ups. You. How are you planning to write this mission report this time? How about this? We just say that in the Land of Tea, we finished intelligence gathering and left, without knowing what happened afterward. Then, we report everything honestly on Summoning Island. A Jonin who committed suicide? The mission report will, of course, say suicide. Privately, though. Well, let's inform the third Hokage and hand over the Hazuki clan's secret techniques along with the legacy of the second Mizukage. After all, I am a loyal inheritor of the Will of Fire. Oh, I'm sure the Hokage will be so grateful to you. Minato rolled his eyes, something quite rare for him. He wasn't stupid. It was obvious that was just dumping the problem onto the third Hokage. The secret techniques of the Hazuki clan weren't something ordinary people could learn. These techniques were ridiculously difficult to master. Not only did they require an extremely high level of water-style mastery, but also exceptional illusion prowess, and even the ability to modify the Hazuki clan hydrification jutsu into an oil-based form. Ever since Genjutsu's passing, the clan had struggled for years. Had they ever produced another Genjutsu? To Hidden Leaf Village, this was just like the first Hokage's wood-style scroll. If they discarded it? What if some genius actually managed to learn it? If they studied it? Sorry, not possible. Handing over this kind of technique scroll meant that given the third Hokage's personality, he would probably stash it away, even if he found it a headache. After all, this was the legacy of the second Mizukage. Adding to Hidden Leaf Village's arsenal was never a bad thing. But if they just quietly kept the scroll, and someday the Hazuki clan found out that could use their secret techniques. Even if the Hokage wanted to complain, he'd have to take responsibility. By submitting the scroll through official channels, even the two old geezers in the Hidden Leaf Village Council, who loved to shift blame, would have no grounds to criticize. Oh please, no need to thank me. It's my duty. Was completely unfazed by Minato's sarcastic tone. When will your actions ever match the nonsense you spout? Where did you even learn this sarcastic tone? Didn't I pick it up from you? Hey, Ongoka, you be the judge here. Ongoka, standing to the side, covered her mouth, giggling as she watched the two banter. The worries and unease she had about settling down in Hidden Leaf Village gradually faded away in the warmth of their laughter. 2 days later, inside the Hokage's office in Hidden Leaf Village, Hiruzen finished reading the mission report submitted by Ken Minato. Then, he glanced at Ongoka, who stood nervously beside Minato, before shifting his gaze to the 2 secret technique scrolls and 1 sealing scroll on his desk. His temples throbbed. He felt like he couldn't breathe properly. Bringing an Uzumaki clanswoman into the village was one thing, after all, the High Council had already approved a motion to take in Uzumaki refugees. Even though Ongoka had previously worked in a research facility in Kiri, as long as she carried the Uzumaki bloodline and held no hostility toward Hidden Leaf Village, the village would gladly welcome her with open arms. But, what were these other things? The same Ada? The secret techniques of the Hazuki clan? The techniques of the second Mizukage? Did they want to provoke the lunatics in Hidden Mist Village into launching an attack tomorrow? This mission will be classified as top secret. The Hazuki clan's techniques will be sealed in the archives under the category of extremely high training difficulty. As for the second Mizukage's jutsu, it will be added to the Scroll of Seals. You two may select 2 jutsu from the archives or the Scroll of Seals as a reward. The third Hokage massaged his temples with both hands. With war looming on the horizon, the last thing he wanted was this kind of mess. But a village's strength was built upon its arsenal of jutsu. Could he really reprimand his subordinates for bringing back such an invaluable secret technique? If he discouraged this kind of contribution now, who would dare to do it in the future? He had to admit, he was at a loss. It was supposed to be a routine reconnaissance mission with some danger. How had it turned into this? Hokage-sama, in that case, I'll be taking this, said with a sheepish grin as he walked up to the desk, grabbing the scroll that contained Samada. He used Kushina as an excuse, claiming he had promised to bring her back a local specialty. Minato's expression twitched ever so slightly. Samada is a local specialty? Well, it is unique to Kiri, so technically, that's not wrong. Hidden Mist Village still values its 7 ninja swordsmen highly. Until the conflict between them and Hidden Sand Village is settled, do not flaunt that weapon in public, Hiruzen warned after a moment of contemplation. He ultimately chose not to confiscate Samada. After all, a ninja's spoils of war rightfully belong to them. Seizing an individual's battle loot was a tricky issue. Besides, Hidden Mist Village and Hidden Sand Village were already at each other's throats. At this moment, over a single sword, neither village would risk bearing their fangs at Hidden Leaf Village, whether for strategic reasons or out of sheer hatred toward each other. Still, it was best to play it safe. Once the two villages were deep into their war, then would be the perfect time to reveal Samada. Got it. K's grin became even more genuine. As expected, the third Hokage was a good man. Before returning to the village, he thought he'd have to fight to keep Samada. But to his surprise, the third, who hadn't yet reached his twilight years, was far bolder than he had imagined. Not bad, not bad. This old man was so straightforward that he definitely deserved to be scammed 2 fewer times in the future. Chapter 37, 1,000 Emotions in One Glance. Leaving the Hokage's office, Minato and Ongoka were arguing over the issue of housing. Minato wanted Ongoka to move directly into his home. Having suddenly arrived in an unfamiliar environment, Ongoka felt an extreme lack of security and naturally didn't want to be separated from her lover. After all, this was Hidden Leaf Village, the place where Minato had always lived. She couldn't help but worry. If she moved in with him right away, would it cause trouble for him? Would others think she was too frivolous? Who had always been perceptive, naturally wouldn't suggest something like go live with Kushina at a time like this. First, Hiruzen had just completely avoided mentioning Kushina, clearly indicating that he still didn't fully trust Ongoka. He didn't want this newly arrived Uzumaki clan member to interact rashly with the Nine-Tails Jinchuriki. Second, his good friend had finally found love and was about to gallop toward a happy future. As the one who played matchmaker, it would be far too cruel to interfere now. Minato, Ongoka, the flowers at home haven't been watered in a while. I'm heading back first. Casually found an excuse, bid farewell to the two, and then turned around, heading toward the Yamanaka clan's territory. Hidden Leaf Village's streets remained lively. Pedestrians filled the roads, and the city buzzed with activity. The atmosphere of daily life permeated the alleys. Even though K'd been away for just a few days, nothing had changed. Compared to the chaotic world outside, where villages and towns frequently erupted into battles and disorder, Hidden Leaf Village seemed like a peaceful sanctuary amid the turmoil. At the very least, most people on the streets didn't have expressions of numbness or suffering but rather genuine smiles from the heart. Hidden Leaf Village really is wonderful. A soft female voice came from not far away. The tone was light, just a few simple words, yet it carried 1,000 emotions. Nostalgia, reluctance, longing, resolve. Something about the tone made turn his head to look at the young woman observing the same street scene as him. She appeared 2 or 3 years older than him. She wore a black robe, with a pair of round black-framed glasses on her face, and her long, pale gold hair was mostly hidden under a white hood. A nun? Name, Yakushi Nano. Career, Hidden Leaf Village spy. Traits, the Wandering Maiko, blue, proficient in medical ninjutsu, green, affinity, green, eye disease, gray, Nano. Was briefly stunned, but he quickly understood why her emotions had been so complicated just now. As a professionally trained Hidden Leaf Village spy, long-term undercover missions in enemy nations brought unimaginable psychological pressure. Even though he had only been away for a few days and had the company of friends, returning to Hidden Leaf Village still gave him a deep sense of warmth. Let alone someone who had to infiltrate enemy forces again and again, never knowing how long they'd be gone or when, or if, they'd ever return. But this list of traits. Now that was interesting. The Wandering Maiko was a title Nano had earned from her exploits. Many factions knew of a formidable spy by that name, yet they had never been able to catch her, making the title more and more famous. He hadn't expected it to become an actual trait of hers. And looking the related skills, espionage, disguise, intelligence gathering, tracking, counter-tracking, all enhancing her spy abilities. Affinity made it easier for her to gain people's trust. This woman was truly a born spy. Eye disease. TSK. Glanced at the last gray trait before turning to continue on his way. Eye disease. A negative trait, severe nearsightedness combined with mild face blindness. Honestly, if not for the powerful, the Wandering Maiko, trait making up for it, such an obvious weakness would have been fatal for a spy. Wait. Wasn't this exactly what led to her downfall in the end? Sifted through his memory palace, recalling the original story's plot, and once again cursed Denzo in his heart. That old bastard really had no sense of humanity. Nano had already retired, Yet he still forced her back into service by using a group of children as leverage. And that wasn't even the worst part. He then turned around and used Nano to threaten Kabuto at the orphanage, forcing him into espionage as well. But it didn't stop there. To control her, he replaced her photos, making her mistake someone else for Kabuto. Then, when Kabuto had grown stronger, Denzo decided she knew too much and fed him false information, leading him to kill Nano with his own hands. This. For the first time, felt that simply calling Denzo a rookie killer wasn't harsh enough. Thinking of Shizui, whose eyes were stolen. Thinking of Pain, who came to Hidden Leaf Village just to destroy everything. Thinking of Kabuto, who eventually became a twisted version of himself. Maybe I should just find an opportunity to take out Denzo. Rubbed his chin. The more he thought about it, the more it seemed like a good idea. Even though Denzo now had big brainstorm, which meant he might not have as much energy to cause chaos as in the original story, a hidden threat like him could dig a pit for his allies at any moment. Better to deal with him early. Besides, if Denzo were eliminated, the system might just give him a massive reward. X's figure gradually faded into the distance. Nano, who had been watching the bustling streets, let out a quiet breath and turned to glance at the tall figure in a Jonin vest walking away. As an experienced spy, she was extremely sensitive to the gazes around her. The moment Ked focused on her, she had noticed. While pretending to be engrossed in the street view, she carefully observed him from the corner of her eye. His expression showed no attempt to conceal his sympathy and pity. Why? Did he somehow guess her occupation from that single moment of emotional vulnerability? No way, that was just a casual remark. She carefully recalled the young ninja's face. She was certain she had never seen him before. A face that clean and handsome, if she had ever met him, there was no way she would have forgotten. After thinking for a long time, she came to two conclusions. Either he had somehow learned of her identity beforehand, or he was absurdly perceptive. Because no ordinary ninjas would have reacted that way. I don't need sympathy or pity. Everything I do is for Hidden Leaf Village. Nano silently reassured herself. She took one last look at the vibrant, bustling streets of Hidden Leaf Village. Then she took a deep breath, adjusted her mindset, and prepared to set off for her next intelligence-gathering mission. At that moment, turned back once more, watching the direction in which Nano disappeared. With his top-tier sensory abilities, how could he not notice her moment of tension? In the analysis team, he had seen plenty of captured spies from other villages. People like that feared nothing more than having their identities exposed. Even if a fellow Hidden Leaf Village ninja approached them recklessly, it could cause them immense anxiety. Judging by Nano's demeanor, she was clearly heading out on another mission. At a time like this, he wouldn't do anything to disrupt her state of mind. May you return safely. Chapter 38, Counter-flipping the legendary sucker. He wandered leisurely back to the entrance of the clan's territory. Glanced toward his home, noticing the wisps of smoke rising from the chimney and a few elderly clan members looking at him with teasing expressions. Kushina was definitely at his house. Recalling what Minato had told him before leaving Hidden Leaf Village about the gossip circulating at the temporary Jonin standby station, he felt a slight headache coming on. Given Kushina's habit of frequently visiting the Jonin standby station, there was no way she hadn't heard those rumors. A loan turning into a bride price, a savings book becoming undeniable proof of a relationship, staying over for one night turning into solid evidence of cohabitation. Sanpei, come here. Waved at a clan member, who had just returned from outside carrying a basket of vegetables. What's up? Sanpei, who had just entered his 6th year at the Ninja Academy, still had the clear-eyed foolishness of youth. Seeing calling him over, he ran up eagerly. While I was away, did the heads of the Inoshikacho clans get beaten up? Huh? Who would dare beat up them? Do you know where the temporary Jonin standby station is after the previous one was destroyed? Why yeah, I do. Has it been torn down? Huh? And no, it hasn't. Keep your innocent look, and go home early for dinner. Generously pulled out a few 200 ryo bills from his pocket and stuffed them into Sanpei's hands. Thanks. Sanpei grinned, tucked away the money, and happily bounced home. If answering a few simple questions could earn him this much pocket money, then K was definitely the most generous man in the clan. K had successfully gathered the answers he needed. Instantly, he felt at ease, his heart no longer pounded, his face stayed cool, and he walked with confidence and swagger. If Shikaku, Inoichi, and Choza, those notorious gossip spreaders, hadn't been beaten up, it meant Kushina hadn't taken her anger out on them. And if the temporary Jonin standby station hadn't been demolished, it meant Kushina had known about these rumors in advance. Or rather, these rumors had started spreading with her tacit approval. Though he wasn't sure how Shikaku and the others had communicated with Kushina, the fact that she had allowed this meant she had made up her mind. She wasn't hiding it anymore. She wanted to be with him. Otherwise, what kind of girl would tolerate such rumors? Should he start being more proactive? She had already gone this far. As the man in the relationship, he needed to show enough sincerity and commitment. After all, love was a two-way street. He couldn't possibly let the girl take the lead in confessing, right? With his hands in his pockets, hummed a cheerful tune from his past life and strutted toward his house with an air of unshakable confidence. Meanwhile, the elders sitting at the clan entrance exchanged glances. What's up with him? No idea. But I saw him give Sanpei some money. He must have gotten the answers he wanted. Is Lady Tsunada's name really not intimidating enough anymore? I thought he'd bolt at the mention of Tsunada's name. Last time Jiraiya offended her, that punch. My mom, cough, my wife just called me for lunch. I'm heading back. Same here. It's noon already, time for lunch. Yeah. The clan members who had gathered at the entrance suddenly scattered. And before he even reached his doorstep, multiple chakra signatures, through various sensing jutsu, locked onto his front door with precision. Furrowed his brows. Seriously? You bunch of old geezers, missing limbs and all, really have nothing better to do? Can't a guy just have a relationship without you gossiping about it? If the clan's sensory barrier wasn't activated, would you all just go ahead and sense inside the house directly? And what's with these so-called hidden sensory techniques? One or two, fine. In Hidden Leaf Village, most people wouldn't notice. But for fuck's sake, 8 of them stacked together? Anyone would feel like they were being watched. He raised a proud middle finger toward the sky. Made up his mind, he needed to open that breakfast shop he had been planning as soon as possible. Weren't these old geezers too idle for their own good? Grinding tofu, making soy milk, steaming buns, shaping dumplings, frying dough sticks, flipping pancakes, pan-frying shrimp dumplings. No rush, he had plenty of work to keep them busy. But for now, he had to make them back off first. Maintaining his middle finger salute, directly infused a mental shock wave from his illusion into the dozen or so sensory techniques targeting him. Ow! You little bastard. That was dirty. Ah! My hemorrhoids. Ugh! You brat. I was just checking on you, and you dare hit me with such a nasty jutsu? Honey. Come help me look at this, you're not even 50 yet. And you already shit yourself? Let me explain. The once quiet Yamanaka clan compound instantly erupted into chaos. Especially in the house of that poor guy who, thanks to the Ganjutsu, suddenly lost control of his sphincter. Complete and utter mayhem. Sensing that all the sensory techniques had dissipated, nodded in satisfaction. Standing in front of his house, he took several deep breaths. After composing himself, he finally reached for the handle and pushed open the door. I'm home. His voice carried an uncharacteristic gentleness. That was, until he saw the blonde woman sitting cross-legged in a living room just past the entrance. She was holding a bottle of sake, her face flushed with intoxication. His smile instantly froze. Shit. He guessed wrong. Brat. I've been waiting for you. Tsunada, sake bottle in hand, paused slightly. Her red lips parted into a smile, excited yet sinister. With a single slap on the coffee table, she launched herself forward like a pouncing tiger. Her right fist, infused with chakra and cutting through the air like a blade, came straight for K's face. The hell? She's using her punch right away? With the enhanced reaction speed granted by his zero-frame start, clearly saw the dense chakra concentrated around Tsunada's fist. Forget taking that hit directly, even a mere graze would send an elite Jonin straight to the afterlife. She had blocked all escape routes inside the house. The force of her punch was aimed toward the front door, meaning she was deliberately trying to blast him outside to avoid damaging the house. Her footwork was cautious, keeping a fraction of her weight ready for evasive maneuvers. She was wary of his clan's secret techniques. And the yin seal on her forehead, once a pale blue, had darkened, pulsing rhythmically as it released small amounts of chakra. She was defending against his Ganjutsu. Let's test my water style. Splash, K's muscles bulged as his entire body surged with strength. Instead of retreating, he advanced. Stepping in low, he caught Tsunada's wrist with his right hand before her punch could land. Her punch carried an overwhelming force, but using that very momentum, he twisted his body and flipped her over his shoulder, throwing her straight out the front door. Chapter 39. From spatula to smitten, K felt a fleeting softness flash across his back as he was suddenly thrown down, his body stiffening for a moment. Tsunada. She truly lived up to her name. Just one back throw, and this was already too much. He took a step towards the entrance. K subconsciously shrugged his shoulders, trying to dispel the tingling sensation on his back. He sighed. At this age, his energy was still burning strong. Just a little stimulation, and he was already getting restless. The Hazuki clan's technique? Tsunada flipped in midair, sliding her legs back while supporting herself with her left palm on the ground. After her chest trembled 3 times, she quickly stabilized herself in a standard cushioning motion. Looking at the water vapor faintly rising from K's muscular body, she instantly recognized it. Going on that trip paid off. Want to test it out? Raised an eyebrow provocatively and gestured at Tsunade with his fingers. Hey, I'll make sure you break fewer bones. Tsunade sneered, her usually cold and stunning face now showing a rare serious expression. With a sudden burst of chakra at her feet, she shot forward like an arrow leaving the bowstring. Senpai, just don't cry when you lose. K moved just as swiftly, dodging her incoming punch while lifting his knee to strike at Tsunade's waist. Her punch missed. She swiftly pressed down with her left hand to block his knee strike, using the momentum to spin and kick toward his head. With 0 frame start active, K predicted her movement in advance. As he crouched to dodge, he quickly formed a seal with one hand, gathering a surge of yi and released chakra. Demonic illusion, paradise. Throughout the exchange of blows, Tsunade kept her eyes locked onto K. In an instant, she fell into his Ganjutsu. Her originally serious expression showed a hint of surprise before quickly shifting into excitement. The yin seal on her forehead slowly released energy, disrupting her chakra flow. However, even the chakra she could have used to break free from the illusion, she willingly stopped circulating it. Name, Senju Tsunade. Career, ninja. Traits, medical sage, purple. One of the Sannin, purple. Overflowing power, blue. Sealing mastery, blue. Meticulous precision, blue. Colossal strength, blue. Fading youth, blue. Inherited bloodline, green. Hemophobia, gray. Cursed gambler, black. 2 purple, 5 blue, 1 green, 1 gray, and 1 black. Absolutely amazing. Even Minato only has 6 traits, but you've got 10. Although 2 of them are negative traits, who dares say that's not impressive? Marveled at the densely packed list of Tsunade's abilities. He had to admit, her expertise in yang release and medical ninjutsu was truly top tier. And then there was fading youth. As long as her chakra remained abundant, her appearance wouldn't change over time. In fact, her presence, charm, and allure would only increase. At 20 or 40, she would still be just as stunning, if not even more elegant. If Kushina knew such an ability existed, she would go crazy. Ha ha ha, you guys lost. Pay up. Pay up. Ha 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 ha. Tsunade, fully engrossed in the Ganjutsu, stood barefoot in the courtyard, hands on her hips, laughing wildly without a care for her image. Huh? Amazing. Tsunade even fell for it while keeping the yin seal active. Kushina peeked her head from the doorway, watching Tsunade trapped in the illusion. Her face was filled with awe as she gave a big thumbs up. Earlier, Tsunade had specifically trained with 2 elite jonin from the Yamanaka clan to familiarize herself with their secret techniques. She had even set up a small seal to complement her yin seal, designed to counteract Ganjutsu. It had worried Kushina for days, making her toss and turn at night, afraid that would get beaten up. But in the end, this was it. Well then. Turned around and looked at Kushina, who was wearing an apron and still holding a spatula in her hand. Clearing his throat lightly, he flashed a gentle smile and spoke again. I'm home. Welcome home. I already made dinner. Kushina stared into K's radiant eyes, and her delicate face instantly turned bright red, with wisps of steam practically rising from her head. This is too unfair. Why is he suddenly looking at me like that? And this kind of dialogue. Isn't his something that only happens between married couples? A gentle wife welcoming her hardworking husband home after a long day. Her imagination ran wild, and she immediately transformed into a flustered, steaming mess, completely unable to meet K's gaze. She quickly grabbed his indoor slippers from the shoe cabinet, placed them at the entrance, and then dashed into the kitchen like a startled rabbit. Clapping her burning cheeks with both hands, she couldn't hide the joy in her eyes. Oh my, oh my, oh my, oh my, oh my, starting today, I am finally going to have a sweet romance. Do you need help bringing the dishes out? K's voice came from outside the kitchen. No need. It's almost ready. Kushina splashed her face with cold water, forcefully cooling down her flushed cheeks. Taking a deep breath several times, she clenched her small fists, hyping herself up before finally stepping out of the kitchen with the food. Beef bourguignon, coq au vin, ratatouille, potato gratin, and French onion soup. As each dish was placed on the table, K's expression grew even softer. In the shinobi world, authentic European cuisine didn't exist. The fact that Kushina could make these dishes was entirely because he had given her a handwritten recipe book as a graduation gift. He never expected that, with just a single recipe book, she would be able to master such a refined and delicious cooking style. The Kushina who used to mix up salt and sugar. has actually become this amazing? Chuckled, offering her a heartfelt compliment. Humphrey, of course. There are plenty of people who want to taste my cooking but don't even have the chance. Kushina proudly lifted her chin, completely defenseless against this kind of praise. Back in the academy, she had been utterly conquered by K's homemade bento, freeloading off him for years. Who would have thought that the moment they graduated, he would get caught up in non-stop missions? Unable to stomach the food at home, she had no choice but to dive into that cursed recipe book. And those vague instructions, like a little bit, appropriate amount, some, they tormented her for ages. For a beginner in cooking, how was she supposed to know what a little meant? Or how much some was? Thankfully, hard work paid off. With her amazing sister Tsunade serving as her unwilling taste tester, she eventually had a breakthrough. Her cooking traits soared to mastery. Now even Mikoto praised her cooking. Huh? Can you tell me who these plenty of people are? Raised an eyebrow, pretending to be heartbroken. Are you jealous? You're not convincing at all, your acting is terrible. I can't help it. The infamous Red Habanero has such a reputation, I don't even have the right to be jealous. That nickname is awful. You're not allowed to call me that. But I think it sounds really cute. I'm already 19, is it really okay to still call me cute? Anyone who dares to say you aren't cute, just give them a good 1-2 punch. Shouldn't that be your job? I don't do things without a reward. What kind of reward do you want? Take a guess. Chapter 40, Nothing Worthy Enough. After finishing a pleasant lunch, Kushina washed the dishes while K sat by the dining table, resting his chin on his hand, watching her busy figure. This scene wasn't exactly romantic. But after more than a decade, for the first time in this unfamiliar yet familiar world, he felt a sense of home. Kushina? Nothing, I just wanted to call your name. Then. Kushina. Kushina. PFFT. Ha ha ha. For an entire afternoon, Kushina didn't know how many times she laughed with her signature laughter. She had no idea why such a childish game could make her so happy. But as long as she heard K call her name, she just felt so incredibly happy. After putting the washed dishes away in the cupboard, she dried her hands and hung the apron on a hook by the kitchen wall. When she turned around, he was no longer by the dining table. Hearing sounds of rummaging from the study, she curiously walked to the doorway. Inside the room, she saw open drawers, bank books scattered to the side, secret technique scrolls casually thrown on the floor, and K still searching for something. She asked in confusion, "Are you looking for something?" "Maybe, I'm looking for my heart." "Huh? You, corny pickup line. But I like it." Ha 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 ha. K put down the random things he had collected and laughed along with her. After their laughter subsided, he looked at the girl leaning against the doorframe. Dressed in simple home clothes, her beauty was still undeniable. In a soft voice, he spoke. "I was originally looking for something worthy enough to match you, so I could confess and ask you to be my girlfriend." And then? Kushina froze for a second, realizing what was about to happen. Her heart pounded nervously, but she was also full of anticipation. Even though just being with K made her feel incredibly happy, like every girl, she still hoped for a proper confession to confirm their relationship. But then I realized. Nothing is worthy enough to match you. So instead, I entrust my happiness to you. Kushina, be my girlfriend. Yes. Kushina nodded vigorously. She was beyond happy, yet tears still streamed down uncontrollably. She remembered how Shikaka once told her that K cherishes every relationship deeply, whether it was family, friendship, or love. Because of this, at first, he always seemed a little distant. Maybe he feared lies. Maybe he feared loss. Maybe he feared betrayal. So when you take the first step toward him, he might retreat. With the second step, he might hesitate. But when you take the third, fourth step, he will abandon all worries and run toward you. Shikaku, I did it. K is running toward me. K suddenly pulled Kushina into his arms, wrapping his arms around her slender waist and spinning her in circles. Woo Kushina, congratulations. You're officially taken. PFFT, how can you joke at such a touching moment? You look the most beautiful when you smile. Then congratulations to you too, you're taken now. Ha ha ha, same to you, same to you. Honk honk honk, if you keep laughing like that, our house is going to turn into a zoo. Humphrey. I'm not a big goose. Kushina playfully punched K's chest, tears still glistening in her eyes, filled with satisfaction and happiness like never before. Standing on her tiptoes, she hooked her arms around K's neck. How could K not know what this posture meant? Without hesitation, he leaned in and kissed her. Kushina used to wonder why couples in movies could never seem to kiss enough. Now, she finally understood. Because this was the purest and most direct expression of love, far more meaningful than a million words saying, "I want to be with you forever." 21. Dealer wins. Dealer wins. Ha ha ha, hand over the money. If you won against me, spit it out. Ha 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 ha. Tsunoda's excited, almost crazed voice echoed from outside the room. Kushina, still lost in a daze, suddenly realized, 2 buttons of her collar were undone, and even her belt was half loosened. Tsunoda is still outside. Then should we wait for her to leave before continuing? Teased, pulling the flustered Kushina, who was hurriedly fixing her clothes, back into his arms. After she playfully punched him twice, he twirled a strand of her fragrant, silky hair between his fingers and asked a question he had long forgotten to ask. Kushina, back then, how did Shikaku at Inoichi convince you not to get mad after hearing all those rumors? Am I that short-tempered? Humphrey, go ask Inoichi yourself. I'm not telling you. Kushina pouted, recalling those past events, and buried her face in K's chest. Those rumors, she didn't need Shikaku to persuade her at all. It was her who noticed K's changes, who could no longer hold back her feelings, yet feared the obstacles that might come their way. So she had gone to seek help from Inoichi. And Inoichi? He had simply taken her straight to Shikaku. That was how the storm of rumors had started, along with all the evidence that seemed to confirm them. You have the best temper, ha 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 ha. K didn't push the matter further. If Kushina didn't want to say it, he could always ask Inoichi later. You smug bastard. Kushina muttered under her breath and hugged her hard-won lover even tighter. Oh right, why is Tsunoda at our place? She came back to the village a few days ago and asked me for a loan again. So I used that phrase you taught me last time. Then she insisted on waiting for you, so we ended up here. Should I be thanking her for bringing you over? Oh, did you bring your clothes and daily necessities? And no. Then should I go back with you to pack? Okay. Kushina's face flushed red again. She was bold, sure, but she was still a girl. Now that they were taking this step, even she felt shy. Both of them were the type to act immediately once a decision was made. After putting on their shoes, they stepped out of the room. Seeing Tsunoda's alternating expressions, sometimes twisted in frustration, sometimes flushed with excitement, Kushina couldn't help but ask worriedly, is she going to be okay like this? She'll be fine. With her yin seal passively releasing chakra, she should have noticed and disrupted it ages ago. Huh? Then why is she still? She probably realized forcefully breaking the Genjutsu would cause mental strain. And later. She just didn't want to wake up. It's a casino, after all, for a gambling addict like her, this is pure heaven. A casino? It's a scene I created with Genjutsu. Briefly describe the casino's appearance. He had never been to the world's famous gambling cities in his past life, but he had seen movies and played plenty of games. Inside his memory palace, he had jumbled together chaotic movie scenes with all sorts of gambling games, blackjack, baccarat, Russian roulette, poker, mahjong, dominoes, dice games. With such an overwhelming variety, it would be strange if Tsunoda could resist. And in this Genjutsu space, she wasn't affected by cursed gambler. She wouldn't only lose, nor would winning immediately trigger some disaster. For someone as legendarily unlucky as her, even winning a little was already paradise. Genjutsu? Even if it killed her, she'd want to finish enjoying it first. Chapter 41, the exclusive mark of forever. Kushina still wasn't completely at ease just throwing Tsunoda, who was under a Genjutsu, into the courtyard. Out of kindness, she moved her back to the guest room and set up a simple protective barrier before finally leaving with. As for undoing the Genjutsu? No way. If she did, how would they enjoy their time alone together? Hand in hand, K and Kushina walked toward the Senju residence. Despite the distant and wary gazes from the villagers around them, some still filled with disgust and fear, Kushina no longer paid them any attention. Mido once said that when her heart was filled with love, she would no longer feel lonely or afraid because of being a Jinchuriki. Look, I'm not lonely or afraid anymore. Standing in front of the Senju residence, Kushina murmured softly. The next moment, her face lit up with a bright smile as she pulled along and ran inside. Oh, right. During this mission, Minato and I brought back someone from your clan, a girl around your age. While helping Kushina organize her things, casually mentioned the mission. Huh? Really? What's her name? She must be struggling to adjust after just arriving in Hidden Leaf Village. Should I go check on her? Does she have a place to stay? She must have been through a lot, right? Relax. No need to rush. I'll tell you everything. Her name is Ongoka, and before this. Patted Kushina's head. Under her eager, sparkling gaze, he began explaining Ongoka's situation. Compared to Kushina's childhood, Ongoka had actually been quite lucky. When the land of whirlpools was destroyed, she managed to escape safely thanks to her parents' protection. Although she lived as a refugee for a while, she soon settled in the land of the sea. Since both of her parents were ninjas, even though they later worked as simple hunters, they managed to live a decent life. Later, by chance, her parents got involved with an underground bounty exchange and somehow ended up on Summoning Island, helping researchers control unruly summoning beasts. Due to old injuries from their ninja days, her parents both passed away 3 years ago. Since then, she had taken over their work, assisting the research efforts on the island. It wasn't until Ken Minato arrived that she learned the island was secretly backed by Carrie. After being rescued by Minato, the survivors from the research facility were taken to Hidden Leaf Village. Having nowhere else to go, Ongoken naturally followed them here. So he actually pulled a hero saving the damsel move to trick an innocent girl. And he even brought her straight home. Kushina made a face full of disdain, but deep down, most of her worries had already eased. Because Ken and Minato were close, she was also quite familiar with Minato. Even though she always thought he was a bit too soft and gentle, she knew he was a reliable person when it came to his comrades. If Minato was looking after Ongoka, then there was no way she'd be as lost, confused, and lonely as Kushina had been when she first arrived in Hidden Leaf Village. Ha ha ha. Exactly. He is definitely no good. Ha ha. Cold-heartedly agreed, without a hint of guilt. On the way back, he had already complained to Minato multiple times, telling him to tone down his lovey-dovey behavior. But that guy? 1 ear in, 1 ear out. 1 second, he'd promised to behave. The next second, he was lying in his girlfriend's lap. Even meals had to be, you feed me a bite, I feed you a bite. And when traveling, if they weren't holding each other, they were hugging. How could that guy possibly be a good person? You're no good either. Kushina stuck out her tongue playfully. She happily labeled Kaz just as bad as Minato. Don't think she didn't know. Out of all the Hidden Leaf Village ninjas in their generation, K had the worst personality. He looked bright and handsome on the outside, but when it came to pranks, absolutely ruthless. All those self-invented and modified Ganjutsu, here's a D for you, ecstatic tentacle games, glory mole, I am your father, golden shower. Just from the names alone, who in their right mind would believe he was a good guy? So, you finally said what you really think? K gently pinched Kushina's nose. Looking at her radiant, mischievous smile, he suddenly felt a little hungry. For something else. We should finish packing. If we're too late, Tsunade might just tear the house down. Under K's intense, wolf-like gaze, Kushina immediately chickened out. TCH, weren't you really bold before? No matter how bold I was before, it was at the past. But now, it's the present. And you're actually proud of that? After a busy while, Kushina had packed up a whole 5 large boxes of belongings. And that was only her personal items, she hadn't even touched the furniture and decorations in the Senju residence. Otherwise, forget 5 boxes, even 50 might not be enough. Looks like I'll need to use shadow clones. Kushina clapped the dust off her hands and was just about to form a seal when grabbed her hand to stop her. Let me show you something cool. Took Kushina's right hand, focused for a moment, then pressed his palm against her wrist. Chakra and spatial energy converged. In the blink of an eye, a ping-pong ball-sized marking appeared on her wrist, its outer ring forming a circle, with 2 small arrows spinning clockwise inside. What kind of sealing jutsu is this? Looks like it's meant to stabilize some kind of spatial energy? Kushina blinked her big eyes, studying the mark curiously. The Flying Thunder God mark was essentially a spatial coordinate, created by manipulating chakra to mark a location in space. By integrating special sealing techniques, the coordinate could be stored and preserved within a seal. Even though Kushina didn't recognize K's specific Flying Thunder God mark, she immediately understood its fundamental nature. Wait, let's add a lock to it. K swiftly formed hand seals and lightly pressed his palm against Kushina's right wrist again. A ring of intricate sealing runes formed around it. A locking seal? And you even wrote your name on it? What, afraid people won't know I'm your girlfriend? Kushina's ears turned slightly red. Her words carried a bit of playful complaint, but her tone was full of delight. This kind of gesture, wanting to let the whole world know they were together. She liked it a lot. This is my exclusive Flying Thunder God mark. K had no resistance to Kushina's playful pout. He tapped her forehead with a smile and explained. The locking seal was a high-level sealing technique that could be cleverly integrated with other seals to form compound seals. A seal enhanced with a locking seal could only be unlocked by the original user's chakra. Unless someone forcefully broke it with overwhelming chakra, only K himself could use his chakra to access the deeper layers of the seal. In other words, even if Minato sensed the Flying Thunder God mark left by K, he wouldn't be able to teleport to it. Because the mark was locked, and his chakra didn't match. So, no access. You're such a possessive guy. Kushina chuckled. Alright. Tomorrow, when I report to the Jonin standby station, I'll make sure to tell them, this is your exclusive Flying Thunder God mark. Wait, Flying Thunder God? Yep. The same Flying Thunder God jutsu as Tobi Ramasama? So, no matter how far away we are, you can instantly appear by my side? That's right. You're amazing. Kushina threw her arms around his neck, showering him with endless praise without holding back. Chapter 42, Charlie's Angels and Free Labor. The boxes of items that Kushina had packed were quickly transported back under K's Flying Thunder God jutsu. After reopening the protective barrier of the old residence, the two of them, just like when they arrived, walked hand in hand toward the commercial street. As they walked, K shared his breakfast shop plan with Kushina. As expected, he received her full support. She even mentioned that among the dozen or so shops left to her by Mido, several tenants were planning not to renew their leases due to the recent instability in the shinobi world. This would be a perfect opportunity to use those spaces for a breakfast shop. K naturally wouldn't refuse Kushina's goodwill. Since it would ultimately be a family business, they would draft a profit-sharing agreement in advance. When the time came, he would just allocate a little more to Kushina. However, to avoid the issue of some dishes not suiting the tastes of people in the shinobi world, it was necessary to have a taste test beforehand. The day after tomorrow, let's invite some friends over to try the dishes for the shop. Do you have anyone in mind to invite? After some thought, K decided on the day after tomorrow. Although he had many breakfast recipes stored in his memory palace, most of them were from various social media platforms rather than hands-on experience. He needed time to prepare ingredients, conduct trial runs, and adjust the recipes. Besides, tomorrow, he still had to visit the archives to select the 2 ninjutsu techniques promised by the 3rd Hokage. To avoid being too rushed, the day after tomorrow was the best choice. You'll definitely invite Inoichi and the others. Mori, Yoshino, and Choen will probably come too, right? Will you invite Minato? I kind of want to see Yamanaka again. Actually, I also want to invite Mikoto, but I'm worried that since everyone else is paired up, she might feel left out. With Tsunade around, what's there to be afraid of? Oh yeah. Haha, Tsunade to the rescue. Wait, did you just compare Tsunade to the Paw Patrol? Are single people not even respected anymore? No way. Kushina blushed and playfully punched K twice. Back in the Ninja Academy, she had heard K tell the story of Paw Patrol, and she had even wanted to get a ninja dog because of it. Her words earlier just slipped out naturally. She wasn't actually teasing Tsunade. Oh? Right. Should we invite your 3 disciples? They really miss you. Damn. How could I forget about such a great source of free labor? Those obedient and well-behaved disciples. You're only thinking about making them work? Good disciples should do good deeds. If they behave well, isn't it natural? K smirked proudly. His disciples were like his personal Charlie's Angels team. The comparison made him chuckle internally. Only Kurenai was female, while Guy had his bowl cut and Genma was always chewing on a senbon. They hardly resembled glamorous beauties. Still, in his mind, they were just as effective. And compared to people like Orochimaru, Obito, and Nagato, who were known for their dramatic betrayals, his disciples were definitely here to repay kindness. Forgetting about them earlier was a big mistake. In the future, he would make sure to remember them first for any bond-strengthening activities. Kushina couldn't stop laughing at K's smug expression. Meanwhile, K was already planning the next steps. Since many guests would be coming over, including the big eater Choza and his wife, he had to make sure no one left hungry. There were too many breakfast options in his mind. Even if he selected just a portion of them, he and Kushina alone wouldn't be able to handle the workload. Using the shadow clone jutsu or mind puppet switch cursed seal jutsu just to cook, that would be exhausting. So, Guy had great strength and endurance, he would be perfect for kneading dough. Genma was skilled with ninja tools, so his knife and pastry skills should be impressive too. Kurenai was dexterous, her hands were perfect for shaping croissants. As the evening set in, many shops in the commercial street were preparing to close. Took Kushina straight to Shushiya. This restaurant was something he started back in his 4th year at the Ninja Academy with Inoichi, Choza, and Shikaku. Inoichi provided the funds to lease the shop. Choza, through his clan, supplied high-quality ingredients. Shikaku handled rare spices and premium deer meat. Together, the 3 of them held a 60% share of the business, while K, who contributed the recipes and managed operations, took the remaining 40%. In the years immediately after graduating from the Ninja Academy, K was busy with missions. So, he hired Yoshino, who was from a previous graduating class, to manage the restaurant on his behalf. Many years had passed since then. Yoshino, help me prepare some things. Just have them delivered to my house before noon tomorrow. Lifting the curtain of Shushuya, spotted Yoshino, elegantly dressed in a crimson yukata with delicate makeup, standing behind the cashier counter. Without hesitation, he handed over a written list. Perhaps because she hadn't given birth to Shikamaru yet, or maybe due to years of work experience, Yoshino, though still married to Shikaku, no longer had the homely and gentle housewife image from the original story. Instead, she appeared more refined and capable. All-purpose flour, bread flour, butter, fresh yeast. Yoshino scanned the list and nodded slightly. Thanks. We'll get going now. Yeah, go on your date with Kushina and stop bothering me while I do business. Yoshino waved them off impatiently. Watching pull Kushina out the door, she glanced at the list again, deep in thought. Hyuk, why are you running so fast? After being dragged along for quite a distance, Kushina blinked in confusion. It's not just Shikaku who hates trouble, I do too. Huh? Yoshinone is really smart. Do you believe that just from that list, she'll be able to figure out a lot? So what? What's the trouble? Kushina looked completely clueless. She has talked about expanding the business for a long time. If she finds out about the breakfast shop, what do you think her reaction will be? She'll want to manage it. Bingo. And that's a problem because she has to convince Shikaku herself. I don't want to be blamed for it. That guy wouldn't dare argue with her. Sighed and explained the situation between Shikaku and Yoshino. After their marriage last year, Shikaku had already complained countless times about how profitable Shushuya was. And as the wife of the Nara clan's leader, Yoshino had outright refused to help manage the clan's medicinal herb and livestock businesses. Instead, she left early and returned late every day, fully focused on Shushuya, insisting that it was her career. What could do? He just wanted to fill his treasury a little. Was that so wrong? If a breakfast shop got added to the mix and Yoshino continued to run the business, Shikaku's expression would definitely turn as dark as storm clouds. Shikaku has that little authority at home? Genuinely didn't know how to respond to that. Had his actions somehow lowered Shikaku's household authority even more than in the original story? Well, considering that Yoshino was the woman who managed to keep 2 generations of Hidden Lee Village's tactical geniuses in line. Terrifying. Chapter 43, Red Hair, Red Fox, Red Fate. Alright, I promise I won't treat you like that in the future. Kushina slightly tightened her grip on K's hand. The evening breeze brushed past, lifting her vibrant red hair. With a smile as radiant as a blooming flower, she left momentarily dazed. Even though this world was far from perfect, there were always some people who shone brightly, bringing warmth and brilliance to the darkness. With a faint smile at the corner of his lips, K tightened his grip on Kushina's hand as well. As the sun set, they walked side by side toward home. Yet, from an angle she couldn't see, he frowned slightly. He was certain of his feelings for Kushina, just as he was certain that Kushina had acknowledged him. So, why hadn't the system notified him that her fate had changed? Name, Uzumaki Kushina, career, ninja, traits, Night-Tails Jinchuriki, red, overflowing energy, purple, in the name of love, purple, sealing mastery, blue, beauty and brains, blue. At the beginning, Kushina had a total of 1 red, 1 purple, 3 blue, 1 green, and 1 gray trait. Now, although only 5 remained, the missing ones, if he remembered correctly, were the blue trait, unyielding, the green trait, outburst, and the gray trait, lonely and helpless. The newly appeared second purple trait was far more powerful than the 3 that disappeared. And the loss of lonely and helpless also meant the removal of its negative effects. In the name of love, purple, a surging and passionate love that drowns all loneliness and hesitation. Significantly increases mental strength, mental growth, and willpower. When protecting a loved one or cherished object, all abilities receive a massive boost. The description of the trait explained everything. Compared to when Minato and Ongoka started dating and Ongoka gained the green trait, mutual devotion, in the name of love, completely outclassed it. Just from the description, K found it absurdly overpowered. And it wasn't limited to combat alone. As long as the motivation stemmed from safeguarding a loved one, whether it was training for strength or learning new skills and knowledge, everything would receive a huge amplification. For Kushina, this was nothing short of an epic tier enhancement. Yet despite this, the system still hadn't indicated that her fate had changed. That meant there was only one explanation left, the 9 tails. During the Warring States period, people regarded tailed beasts as walking calamities. Among the 9-tailed beasts, the 9 tails was the strongest, possessing an immense and terrifying amount of chakra and destructive power. Even after being forcibly split in half by Minato later on, Naruto could still rely on just the yang half to dominate in the 4th Great Ninja War. A complete 9 tails sustaining a red tier trait? Not an exaggeration in the slightest. Moreover, the 9 tails was a crucial piece of the puzzle for reviving the 10 tails. Neither Madara nor the one manipulating things from the shadows would ever ignore it. On top of that, as a pure-blooded Uzumaki, Kushina had the natural talent to become a perfect Jinchuriki. Over the years, due to K's influence, she had become highly dedicated to mastering sealing techniques. Even if she hadn't reconciled with the Nine Tails yet, she had already forcefully extracted quite a bit of its chakra. Becoming a perfect Jinchuriki was only a matter of time. If Madara and Black Zetsu weren't complete fools, they would most likely attempt to eliminate this potential threat before she could fully mature. After all, if she reached the level of Mido, even Madara himself would find it troublesome. K's eyes narrowed slightly as he recalled Obito's tactics in the original story. Logically speaking, Madara should now be in his twilight years. For the sake of his Eye of the Moon plan, he was unlikely to act personally. So, his top priority at the moment would be choosing and nurturing a suitable successor to carry out his will from within the Uchiha clan. But no matter how strong this successor was, even if it was someone like Obito, there was still an insurmountable gap between their strength and Madara's. Even if brainwashed by Madara and intent on attacking Hidden Leaf Village, they would never be strong enough to take on the village head-on. Their method of attack would likely be the same as before, waiting for the Jinchuriki to give birth, then taking advantage of the weakened seal to launch a surprise attack, forcefully summoning the Nine Tails. Kushina, how's the Nine Tails doing lately? Hearing K's question, Kushina tilted her head in confusion. Huh? It's doing great. Except for the fact that every now and then it curses out everyone it knows, then curses the toads, then curses the other tailed beasts. When it's not doing that, it either sleeps or senses the world around it. Where did it even learn to curse? Well, when it senses the world, it overhears things. And over time. Okay, fine. It cursed at me first, so I cursed back. After a while, it just became a habit. I see. K pressed his lips together, unsure of how to react. Back when Kushina first became a Jinchuriki, the Nine Tails had been filled with resentment, constantly rampaging within the seal. She wasn't as strong back then, and even with Mido's sealing techniques, she struggled to suppress the full-powered Nine Tails. Her condition had been highly unstable. For the sake of Hidden Leaf Village's security, Hiruzen and the village elders kept her confined within a barrier at all times. Since K was Kushina's close friend, he was allowed to visit. Taking advantage of the mental strength boost from Transmigrator, he managed to enter the sealing space and meet the Nine Tails once. It had taken him an insane amount of effort, but he had somehow tricked the Nine Tails into calming down, at least temporarily. Thanks to that, Kushina had been able to escape her caged existence much earlier than in the original story. Originally, he had thought that over time, she and the Nine Tails would develop a much better relationship than what was shown in the original timeline. But now, they were just arguing back and forth. Just imagining the once ferocious, razor-fanged Nine Tails now spewing out an endless stream of curses like some mentally unstable chatterbox, couldn't help but feel like this world had completely broken. Ahem. You're someone that Dom Fox knows, so. Kushina coughed awkwardly and hesitantly reminded him. Wait, what? It curses me too? Probably, maybe, possibly. It just wants to treat everyone it knows equally? Sounds fair, I guess? Seeing Kushina's embarrassed smile, he could only let out a long sigh. This girl. She really managed to deliver a new level of mental shock every single time. With all this random nonsense, he had nearly forgotten why he even brought up the Nine Tails in the first place. When we get home, I'm going into the sealing space to check on the Nine Tails. Then let's hurry. I'll go with you, I haven't seen it get put in its place in a long time. I wasn't planning on cursing it out. Chapter 44, C-Rank Insults, S-Rank Rage in the Dark, Cave-like sealed chamber, a sealing formation resembling an ancient altar stood at the center of the space. 8 massive stone pillars surrounded the altar, each extending thick, meter-wide adamantine chains that bound the nine-tailed fox lying in the middle. A pitch-black sealing pillar, as wide as half the fox's body, pierced straight through its back. The 8 chains were locked tightly, leaving no chance for it to break free. The Nine-Tails seemed to have long grown accustomed to this environment. Its front paws overlapped before it, head resting on them as it breathed evenly. Its 9 tails drooped behind it, and even the slightest movement caused a sharp whistling sound through the air. Tap. Tap. Clear footsteps echoed from the tunnel at the end of the sealed space. The Nine-Tails' ears twitched slightly. As the chains rattled, it slowly raised itself from the ground. Its crimson slit pupils gleamed with a cold, menacing aura. Yo. Kurama, your living conditions have improved quite a bit, huh? A lazy, teasing voice came from He still remembered the first time he entered Kushina's sealing space. Back then, the Nine-Tails was completely restrained inside a gigantic sphere resembling the 6 paths, Chibaku Tensei. Its front paws, hind limbs, torso, and all 9 tails were pierced through by ceiling pillars. Chains extended from these pillars, binding every part of its body tightly. Forget lying down to sleep, moving even an inch had been nearly impossible. It seemed that despite all their bickering, Kushina and the 9 tails had developed a much better relationship. Otherwise, Kurama would still be trapped in that ceiling sphere, playing some extreme bondage game. TCH, are you here just to get cursed at? Hearing K's voice, the 9 tails let out a snicker. Its crimson pupils flickered, but the previous bone-chilling malice had faded. After a lazy yawn, it shifted into a more comfortable position and lay back down on the ceiling altar. Pretty confident, aren't you? Chuckled, continuing forward. As he approached the altar, streaks of golden light illuminated the dark space. The glow revealed the 9 tails in full, its enormous, mountain-like body covered in vibrant orange fur. Name, Kurama. Career, prisoner. Traits, tailed beast, red. 9-tailed fox, purple. Chakra key, purple. Malice perception, purple. Hunter's instinct, blue. Fearless, blue. 9 loudspeakers, white. Resentment, gray. Prisoner, huh? Poor 9 tails, muttered inwardly as he glanced at Kurama's traits, examining each one with interest. Tailed beast, the fundamental power of the strongest chakra life form, providing an immense and infinite source of chakra. Even if killed, revival is swift. 9-tailed fox, a unique trait born from humanity's fear. It absorbs large amounts of negative emotions, increasing intimidation and the ability to manipulate hearts, drawing out the darkness in humans. Chakra key, the power that connects people and hearts, essentially an all-purpose adapter, much like the universal charging station seen in the Fourth War. Malice perception, a special ability beyond the chakra system, allowing it to distinguish between good and evil and sense spiritual thoughts. Hunter's instinct, enhances combat abilities. Fearless, boosts courage and perseverance in adverse battles. 9 loudspeakers. The hell? Ksai twitched violently. He felt like he had just seen something utterly cursed. Could it be that the more Kurama swore, the stronger it got? No wonder Kushina always said she couldn't outcurse the 9 tails. With a skill that increased volume, proficiency, and vocabulary while completely disregarding personal, Foxley, image, who in the entire shinobi world could possibly withstand it? Damn. My illusions are shattered. So this is the real Kurama? Brat, if you have something to say, say it. If not, scram and stop disturbing my sleep. The 9 tails shot a sidelong glance at K, who remained silent, and growled in a foul temper. With its menacing eyes and saliva-dripping fangs, any normal person would have been scared stiff and bolted on the spot. Unfortunately for Kurama, K was anything but normal. His expression? Simply indescribable. 9 loudspeakers. It was literally a loudspeaker now. The volume was significantly louder than before. You damn fox. If you keep barking, I swear I'll beat you up. At that moment, Kushina finally emerged from the corridor of the sealed space, cracking her knuckles and flipping the threat back at Kurama. TCH, drink less, eat more veggies. You think you're some old widow like that hag? Kurama sneered, eyes full of disdain. That fox face, if there was ever a perfect embodiment of mockery, this was it. Kushina's face turned red with rage, and the golden adamantine ceiling chains behind her tensed, ready to strike at any moment. If she were alone, she would have just cursed Kurama right back. But with her boyfriend here? No. Don't be mad, don't be mad. I'll take care of it for you. Quickly tried to pacify his tomato-faced girlfriend, realizing exactly who Kurama had just called a hag. He knew better than anyone how much Kushina revered Mido. For Kurama to just blurt out that, of course, she was going to explode. But for K, a seasoned veteran of countless internet flame wars in his past life, who had walked out of the most vicious forums and threads unscathed. Kurama's trash talk? Mediocre at best. Nothing compared to the absolutely savage, lung-piercing, heart-stabbing, reality-breaking verbal warfare he had witnessed in his past life. Haven't seen you in a while, huh? Feeling cocky now? How exactly do you plan to deal with me? Scratch my itches? Give me a leg massage? Kurama lazily half-opened its eyes, completely dismissing K's attempt to calm Kushina. Deal with it. Did he really think he was Hashirama or Madara? Troll. Clapped his hands together, using a hand-seal-less illusion. Within his mind palace, countless insults from his past life's internet hall of fame, infused with elaborate metaphors, savage one-liners, and merciless taunts, merged seamlessly into the Ganjutsu. A full-on verbal blitzkrieg, centered around personal jabs, expanding to family references, bringing in parental comparisons for added weight and finishing with remember where you came from history burns for the final blow. It happened in an instant. Kurama's smug expression froze. And then, shock. Confusion. Disbelief. Face turning red. Burning rage. Veins bulging. Bloodshot eyes. Murderous intent soaring. Roar. A deafening roar erupted from Kurama as it rose on its hind legs, shaking the altar violently. With its massive chakra reserves, it forcibly shattered K's self-made C-rank Genjutsu. In its fury, the nine tails thrashed against the ceiling stakes, piercing through its body and the countless chains binding it to the altar. Truth be told, Troll was just a small experimental technique he had toyed with back in Ninja Academy. It was nothing more than a crude hybrid. He had combined the D-rank demonic illusion, hell viewing jutsu, which triggered deep-seated fears, with the D-rank mist servant jutsu, which created multiple illusionary foes. Instead of phantoms attacking physically, however, they bombarded the enemy's mental weak points with a full-scale verbal assault. For a C-rank Genjutsu, it really shouldn't have been effective against a beast of Kurama's caliber. The only reason it worked? K's absurdly high mental fortitude and master-level proficiency in yin release. But if he truly wanted to use Genjutsu to subdue or control a creature like Kurama, even his mental strength would require an S-rank, long-lasting Genjutsu to stand a chance. Chapter 45, Trolling the Nine-Tails Madara. The beastly roar of the Nine-Tails echoed through the sealed space. Completely enraged, it rampaged wildly on the ceiling altar, venting its fury. The rattling sound of the ceiling chains filled the air as endless negative chakra spread outward, dyeing the entire ceiling space crimson. That damned brat actually used Genjutsu to simulate dozens of Madaras. And these Madaras were just as proud and unruly as the real one. There was no mindless roaring or hysterical cursing, just a cold, indifferent tone and a condescending gaze, as if they were merely lecturing an ant out of sheer boredom. There were no particularly vulgar or dirty words, yet every sentence was so venomous that it made the Nine Tails want to tear them apart. This kind of Genjutsu instantly dragged it back to the days when it was at Madara's mercy. Even after breaking free from the illusion, it still hated Madara far more than it hated K. You should be grateful to Madara, brat. The Nine Tails spoke in a chilling tone, its sharp teeth grinding audibly. A suffocating aura of killing intent, resentment, and hatred enveloped K, as if the beast would tear him apart at any moment. I think so too. Grinned, completely unfazed by the oppressive emotions. He even had enough presence of mind to protect Kushina as well. Thanks to the enhancement of Transmigrator, his mental power was far beyond that of an ordinary person. If this were the real world, being enveloped by such murderous intent and malice might cause some stress reactions in his body. But only his spiritual form had entered the ceiling space. The negative emotions released by the Nine Tails had no effect on him. TCH. The Nine Tails stared at K for a long moment before letting out a scornful chuckle. The overwhelming killing intent and rage gradually subsided. Even though the Genjutsu K had used was just a low-level technique, the sheer strength of his mental power gave the Nine Tails a sense of oppression comparable to the eternal Mangekyo Sharingan. In nearly 1,000 years of existence, there were only a handful of people who had ever given it such pressure. If it truly lost control and went berserk, considering its current sealed state, who the hell knew if this brat would turn into another Madara? Damn brat. How could he have such terrifying mental strength without a Sharingan? How had he trained his yin release Genjutsu to such a level? Damn it. Sage of Six Paths, you better explain this to me. The Nine Tails cursed in its mind, but it couldn't win in a fight, and it couldn't out-insult the brat either. What else could it do? Teach me, teach me. Kushina grabbed K's arm, her big eyes filled with anticipation and admiration. After spending so many years with the Nine Tails, she could immediately tell, this arrogant, unreasonable, and insufferable fox had actually backed down. Ahem. I don't think that's really necessary. Coughed dryly, struggling to imagine Kushina spouting curses. After all, disrupting the Nine Tails' mind had already given him enough existential satisfaction. If he ended up corrupting Kushina too, that would be a crime. Besides, when they eventually became an old married couple, this would probably come back to bite him. Teach her how to curse? Maybe just a little. Just teach me. You don't want me getting bullied by this stupid fox every day, do you? Kushina clung to K's arm, dragging out her words in a pleading tone. As she spoke, she discreetly traced the word scare in his palm. Alright, fine. How about I tell you all about its secret origins and history? K pretended to look troubled but agreed. He wasn't stupid. The moment he felt Kushina writing in his palm, he realized, she just wanted to scare the Nine Tails. To make it rein itself in a little and stop running its mouth so recklessly. Kushina nodded eagerly, like a pecking chick. Knowing the Nine Tails' secrets? That was a brilliant idea. Even if she never actually used this information, just having it would give her leverage. If you dare tell her, don't even dream of me getting along with her peacefully. The Nine Tails' fur bristled as its blood-red slit pupils locked onto K. If it were anyone else talking about its lineage, it would simply sneer. After all, Events from 1,000 years ago had long been distorted by fragmented historical accounts, making it impossible for anyone to truly know the truth. No matter how people speculated, they could never guess what really happened. But this little bastard, he actually knew. During that Genjutsu earlier, the first thing that broke its composure was, of course, Madara. The second was that everything said through Madara's mouth was logical and well-founded, leaving the Nine Tails no room to refute it. "We're just going over your family tree, why are you so worked up?" Kushina put her hands on her hips, looking triumphant as she watched the Nine Tails struggle to even come up with a proper threat. Now she truly understood the power of knowing someone's lineage. You might never actually use it, but you had to have it. See? Just mentioning it had already made the fox blow up. The Nine Tails gritted its teeth and glared at Kushina. "Give me a smile, and I won't listen to him." Kushina grinned mischievously, deliberately making her request sound playful. Anyway, her boyfriend knew all about this stuff. She could just ask him again once they left the ceiling space. "Screw your smile." The Nine Tails nearly shattered its own teeth from grinding them, cursing all the way from Ashina to Kushina, covering every single member of the Uzumaki clan it could think of. As for those ancestors even further back, they were so distant that Kushina wouldn't even recognize their names. What was the point in cursing them? "Let's get down to business first." Patted Kushina's hand, stopping her from further provoking the already enraged fox. Though he did enjoy watching a 1,000-year-old fox get bullied, there were more important matters at hand. "Oh, okay." Kushina wasn't sure what the business was, but she obediently stopped teasing the Nine Tails. "Kurama, does your summoning contract with Madara still exist?" The moment K spoke, not only the Nine Tails but even Kushina's pupil shrank. "Summoning contract? Madara? Tailed beasts could form summoning contracts? And what if it does? That bastard is already dead. First, Madara may be old, but he's not dead yet. Second, even if he does die, he'll definitely leave behind a successor and won't let go of a powerful asset like you. Third, Edo Tensei. That self-righteous Senju. Why invent such a technique? Such an idiot." The Nine Tails cursed bitterly. Even if it didn't believe Madara was still alive, the second and third possibilities were real threats. Especially the third one. That damn Tobirama. Even in death, he was still causing it trouble. Serves him right for getting killed by Kinkaku and Ginkaku. "How about I help you with a contract seal?" K smirked. Seeing how the Nine Tails was venting all its frustration on cursing Tobirama, he knew that Sundeer Fox had already accepted his judgment. "Ha. Let her do it, you don't have enough chakra." The Nine Tails scoffed, glancing at K with disdain. A contract seal required a sealing formula strong enough to completely suppress the connection between the summoner and a summoned entity. With its massive size, did he really think his chakra reserves were enough? Ha. Chapter 46, The Smiling Beast of Hidden Leaf Village. K was stunned for a moment, and then his whole mood took a nosedive. Now he truly understood what it meant. Lies aren't scary, the truth is what hurts the most. Damn it. He would go back and copy a trait to increase his chakra later. The Nine Tails saw K's expression, and the corners of its mouth curled up slightly. It felt a sense of satisfaction, and the frustration from earlier was completely swept away. "You go ahead." K waved begrudgingly at Kushina. Kushina gave him a reassuring look before stepping forward toward the Nine Tails. She clasped her hands together and began forming seals, activating the contract seal. A massive amount of chakra gathered, and countless black sealing formulas spread across the Nine Tails' entire body. This time, the usually mischievous tailed beast did not take the opportunity to launch a sneak attack. Instead, it stayed still and allowed the process to continue. Its slit-like pupils remained locked onto K, who was clearly having a rough time, a faint smirk full of mockery and amusement playing on its lips. After all, no matter how much effort they put in, it wasn't getting out anytime soon. Wouldn't it be more entertaining to watch this arrogant brat suffer a bit? Next up is one's own life reincarnation. Seeing that the contract seal had completely wrapped around the Nine Tails, preventing it from being summoned through summoning jutsu, K finally felt relieved. Now, all that was left was to develop a life transfer jutsu similar to the one's own life reincarnation created by Hidden Sand Village's puppet brigade. No matter how much Madara schemed and manipulated things, Kushina's life would be safeguarded. As for the side effect of the life transfer jutsu consuming the caster's lifespan, had he learned mind-body switch jutsu for nothing? A familiar system notification chimed in. K smirked as he looked at his system panel. Major alteration to an important character's fate. The world line has deviated. Obtained 1 trait duplication, 3 trait extraction, 1 trait removal, 1 trait downgrading, 1 gifting opportunity. Host, Yamanaka. Career, ninja. Active traits, inactive traits, trait extraction, 3, trait gifting, 5, trait duplication, 1, trait removal, 2, Straight upgrade, 0, straight downgrade, 2. As someone who loved playing games and hoarding inventory items like a pack rat, just looking at a panel this packed made K feel delighted. Moreover, with 2 chances to remove entries and 2 chances to downgrade them, if Madara really came looking for trouble, K would make sure he learned the true meaning of, it was at this moment he knew he fucked up. Rinnegan? Gone. Hashirama cells? Gone. Top tier wood style? Downgraded to sapling level. No matter how powerful Madara was, if his core abilities were taken away piece by piece, his strength would inevitably be slashed. And with the Flying Thunder God Jutsu at his disposal, as long as his chakra reserves could keep up, K could attack when he wanted and retreat when necessary, stay if he wanted, leave if he wanted. He might even manage to cut off the 4th Great Ninja War at its source. The more he thought about it, the more feasible it seemed. He quickly searched his memory palace for the original storyline's clues about Madara's hiding spot. But after searching for a long time, he realized that the original work only briefly mentioned that Madara, in his dying moments, had stayed at the mountain's graveyard in the northern region of the Land of Iron. That was also the same place where Obito later met with Kabuto and helped Sasuke transplant Itachi's Mangekyo Sharingan. The Land of Iron wasn't exactly small, nor was it particularly vast. Trying to find such a location within a country of that size wouldn't be an easy task. Moreover, Madara definitely didn't have only one base. After all, the place where Obito had his accident was at Kanabi Bridge. During the war, Kanabi Bridge was a critical supply route for Hidden Stone's village in their conflict with Hidden Leaf Village. That location was roughly at the border between the Land of Grass and the Land of Earth. Considering Obito's injuries at the time, half his body was practically destroyed. If they had really taken him all the way to the mountain's graveyard in the northern Land of Iron for treatment, he would have long since died on the way. So, in either the Land of Grass or the neighboring Land of Rain, Madara must have had at least one more hidden base. I wonder if the Intelligence Division has any clues. He made up his mind, he would go check Hidden Leaf Village's Intelligence Division as soon as possible. At the very least, he needed to confirm the exact location of the mountain's graveyard. What are you smiling about? The Nightales narrowed its eyes. It had been paying attention to K's expression for a while now. At first, it thought he would stay frustrated for a long time after suffering a setback. But before it could fully enjoy its moment of satisfaction, K suddenly smiled. Wait, why was he smiling? What gave him the right to smile? Kurama, you would actually look pretty cute if you smiled. Grinned, showing his teeth. What? The Ninetales was momentarily stunned by the completely unexpected compliment. System, gift, always smiling, to the Ninetales. With strong anticipation in his eyes, gave a silent command to the system. A white glow, visible only to him, instantly merged into the Ninetales' body. Brat. Are you messing with me? The Ninetales could vaguely sense some kind of strange energy coming from K, and its initially stunned expression quickly turned ferocious. Its mind raced with countless thoughts. It was the mighty Ninetales. The strongest among the tailed beasts. A living natural disaster with an awe-inspiring reputation. And yet, this brat dared to describe it with the word cute? Was this mockery? It had to be mockery. This Yamanaka brat was definitely bad news. Hey, if you're going to say that, could you at least stop smiling? It's kind of unsettling. Kushina, who had just returned to K's side, looked at the Ninetales and found herself filled with questions. Wait a minute. Was this fox really that easy to flatter? K just called it cute, and now it looked happy? Kurama, may you always keep that smile on your face. With those words, grabbed Kushina's hand and bolted. Huh? The Ninetales raised a paw to touch its face as it watched the two figures disappear into the distance. The upturned corners of its mouth, the slightly curved eyes. The expression that was supposed to be fierce and menacing looked like it had completely gone wrong. You damn brat. What did you do to me? What kind of Ganjutsu is this? Why can't I control my OWN face? Get back here. Get back here right now. Ruor, damn it. You don't even have the guts to face me head on. Just you wait. I won't let you get away with this. The deafening roars echoed throughout the sealed space. While running away, Kushina glanced back at the Ninetales rampaging on the ceiling altar. Its bizarre grin, stretched almost to its ears, paired with its furious shouting and cursing, was just too ridiculous. She couldn't help but burst into laughter. Chapter 47, Trapped in a Smile, caught in a lie. As soon as her consciousness returned to her body, Kushina clutched her stomach, laughing so hard that she couldn't straighten up. All these years of being the Ninetales Jinchuriki. Every time she saw the Ninetales, it was either baring its fangs in a murderous rage, radiating killing intent, as if it wanted to destroy everything,